with all of our bacon today. We got on Wali Pitt, man, from HBCU Gameday. And without saying anything else, man, we're just gonna bring the good brother on, man. Yes, sir, man. How you feeling
What's
today,
up with
brother?
you?
I'm
I'm
chilling.
doing well, man. I appreciate you having me on. Nice to meet you. I didn't we you one of these people I didn't talk to and texted so many times, but we ain't never met. So pleasure to actually meet you face to face for sure.
Nah, for sure, for sure. Virtually across the screen is definitely cool. I guess it's the style of these days, man.
Look, these days, boy, you can do a whole lot virtual these days. So
I'm telling you, man. But with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead. It's Wale, right?
it's Wali. It's like Ali with
Wale.
a W on the front. Yep.
Got you. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and give you your just do introduction, man. Wally Pitt, man. He's a filmmaker, web developer, cultural defining photographer, multimedia journalist ahead of his time, video voiceover extraordinary. I've been hearing your voiceovers, brother. Husband, filmmaker, film director, editor, and one third of the leader of the HBCU News, Wale Pitt, man.
Hey, I appreciate that. I like the way that sounds. I need to make a video with that. That needs to be the intro to my reel. When I make my next reel, that's probably gonna go on the front.
Hey man, I'll be honest, brother. You know what I mean? It's just yo boy, we got that golden voice. I'm trying to, mold mine into something special like that, man. So I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate it, man. We do so much sometimes I forget, man. I just be thinking I just be pressing play and going. You forget sometimes how much you do. So I appreciate that. I like the voiceover part.
Not for sure. I was listening to
Yeah.
your video, like, man, I was like, who that using it? I kept now because I ain't obviously we've been texting, I never heard the voice.
hmm
I got to listen. I said, this is him. This is him. He doing his thing.
See, bro, that was the hardest part for me because I didn't come into it. That's really all Tali Carr and with how we started, with us being one man bands, we used to just try to kick Tali all the footage back in the day. He was Tali the type to be like, nah, dog, you gonna do it. So our voiceover, I joke with people. I'm like, go watch. My first game was 2016 Central versus Duke. And my voiceover, bro, it sounds like I'm reading. I'm like, "Hello, welcome to the game." It's just so from where I've come. I appreciate you saying that because that was probably the hardest part for me. Starting was putting myself out there with the voiceovers.
Was it more so the writing part or just the voice for you?
Just the doing it, just doing it. Like, it's almost like we all rapped and freestyled a little bit, but it's a whole different cadence when you're trying to talk. You talk too fast, too slow. So it wasn't the writing for me. It was the actual doing it, and then really probably just listening to yourself. That's probably always the hardest part of like, I still sometimes, you hear your voice, you're like, you know
All
what
the
I
time.
mean? But I appreciate the love. Definitely, it kept me going. Like the comments, people being like, "Yo, dude, nice with it." Like I crack a little joke, and people actually respond to it. I was like, "All right, let me do a little more, a little more."
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
nah, it's dope. I appreciate that.
Multi-talented, man. You know what I'm saying? This before we get started, man. Tell the people a little bit about your cave there, your man cave. But so you
Oh,
got.
look, so I'm in the it's the garage studio. My daughter's 5. She calls it the garagio.
Mm,
Uh, so it's my garage, my slash studio. So I do all my editing, all my camera stuff. You see, I got the cameras in the back, and it's just where I work at. Really, it's the HBCU Game Day Charlotte office for real. Tolly got the studio in Atlanta. Steve a Rolling Stone, so Steve be in Greensboro. He be all over. And I'm kind of right here. So most of the stuff you've seen done from Game Day come from me locking myself in the in the cave and getting to work.
in the back cave. Come on now.
hmm
Not for sure, but we're gonna get started, man. It's Black History Month, man. It's that time of the year, man. Have you thought that HBCU Game Day will one day be thought of in high regards of Black history?
Honestly, I mean, I'm not gonna say yes, but I mean that was the goal. When I came into it, I was the last partner to come into it,
Hmm.
and I came into it through a relationship through my father with Tolly. So my pops had a weekly newspaper in Winston Salem, a weekly black newspaper, and they used to do this thing called the Black College Sports Review in like the '80s, where they would it was an insert that would go to his paper and then papers all over the country, just like a little inserted tab that was like this week or this month, I think it was, in HBCU sports. Really one of the first national things to go around. So I was like, oh, that would be dope to bring that back as a video type of thing. And my pops was like, oh, I'm already working with Tolly on this HBCU thing, dot, dot, dot. He connected the dots. So I mean, to answer your question, like I won't say yes, I knew, but you know what I mean. Like that was the plan, was to be an extension of that Black history
Right.
with HBCU Gameday. And once I linked up with Tolly and Steve, like it just felt right. So there was no need to like try to go off and do my own thing. You know what I mean? Part of the mission is helping and uplifting, and you know what I mean. Anyway, so nah, it was all love. So nah, I ain't gonna say it was. I ain't gonna say I knew, but that it really was the plan to kind of create that space where we could take what's already been done in history and move it to the next level.
Right, right. So you've always been in media. So like back, I'm not sure what the time frame was. Back when your pops was running, what kind of differences have you seen from just Black media now, maybe then to now, other than just being digital?
Other than it just being digital, dog, the fan base is more engaged like right now than ever before. Like now you can say they could be engaged in other ways, different ways. You know what I mean? From from a place that writes articles, yeah, we wish people read more articles, but as a whole, the fan base is way more engaged and it's bigger, it's extended. Like you got people who, HBCU sports is now a part of the college sports conversation, bro. It wasn't that long ago when it wasn't at all. You know what I mean? Like pre-COVID, like 2019, you can make a legit article that we weren't as attached to the
Right.
mainstream as we are now. And now it's like, we right there. Like Sports Center got to mention our name. It's not
Mm-hmm.
crazy to see college game day at a HBCU or people doing these projects. So I mean, that's the biggest thing is the fan base. Like people are engaged. Like go look at these HBCU basketball games. I know you've seen it in Georgia right now. Like they're packed. You
Man,
know what I mean? Like
that Morehouse
D2,
Clark
D1.
game.
Yeah, bingo. You know what I mean? So it's like, man, you used to have to sell that. You know what I mean? We used to be like, hey, come to the game. You know what I mean? Now it's like it's packed, the lines around the corner. So like I can't say enough for like the fan base of HBCU sports is like they're killing it right now.
Nah, that's fact. Which is crazy. You say that about the fan base not being ordered, just the attention not being on HBCUs. Because back in the day, you got Stephen there, you got Eddie Tutar Jones, you got Mel Blunt. You know what I'm saying? Michael Strahan, all these NFL Hall of Famers. You know what I'm saying? I guess one getting that coverage back then for whatever reason, but you would think it would kind of carry over and people would kind of be a little more tuned in.
Well, it was different back then because it was a have to. You know what I mean? Like I tell people this all the time. Like just imagine where HBCU college sports would be if integration hadn't happened in 1968, if it had happened in 78.
Right,
Imagine the stars we would have seen. Imagine 88. You know
right,
what I mean? You get integration don't come until 88. You got some of the biggest stars in football ever going to HBCUs. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't, I wasn't there at the time, so I don't, but from how it's portrayed, the 70s era, it's like while those players were better, they didn't necessarily have all the attention. You know what I mean? Like especially in college, I can't speak for like a Walter Payton. Like I know he had a real big name at
right, right,
Jackson State, but I
right.
don't know how many of these other guys, were that big of stars until they got to the league. You know what I mean? We have to ask some
Got
old
you.
heads about that. But nah, so I think that's the thing. I think of a name like Tariq Cohen, at least for this generation, was really one of the
Right.
first guys to turn that tide to like he was a star going into his senior year at HBCU, which was crazy at the time. And now it's like we got at least a handful of guys who, coming into the season, it's like, nah, that's a star and we're aware of him. The mainstream is aware of him and the NFL is aware of him too.
Well, go ahead and put us on game. And who's some mainstream stars we need to keep our eye out for coming out of the HBCU pipeline?
Football?
Football, basketball, baseball, no man, track.
Mm, who are the names to watch for the next level? Well, I've been covering Smith. So
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
let me start D2 because I was real heavy with Smith this year. Jack Smith, the linebacker from Smith, like he got a head on him. I'm a big Carolina Panthers fan and like, covering the game how I cover it, like I don't really, I don't get to watch too much on TV because I'm on the sideline. So a lot of the stuff that piques my attention is like, I hear people like he sounds like Luke Kuechly when he's out there. He's like, hey, Rabbit, da da da, saying a whole bunch of stuff I don't understand, but he's always active and he got that voice. And then once you mix that with his production, I mean, it's crazy. And then I think of, like the guys from Fort Valley State, like Kelvin Durham
Mm-hmm.
from Fort Valley is got at least 2 more years. I don't know what his COVID situation is like. So I mean, those guys are going crazy. And then you look at the FCS level, like it's almost too many to count. You look at what FAMU has on this roster
That's true.
coming in this year, like Gentle Hunt, the defensive lineman who just came back. Like his name has been buzzing. They got 2 or 3, 4 Florida State guys. Jackson State. I mean, you got to look at Jackson. Is probably Jackson or FAMU, whichever one's quarterback gets it together quicker is probably going to be the best team. And I know, they got scouts up and down the line of guys coming out. So I mean, just like we said, it's almost too many to count, especially on the FCS level. I know my man from Howard. I think his name is Anim Dankwa, the offensive lineman. We had a piece on him early this year, and like I think he's in this draft coming up. He's probably going to be the guy who he's an offensive lineman out of Howard from Ghana, real smart kid. He's probably going to be the one that like whose name rings bells once they start playing.
He went to the Senior Bowl.
He did, yeah.
I think I did hear some positive feedback from him from the Senior Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a fact.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I hope Davius Richard. I'm one of those guys. I hope he gets a chance in the NFL because, like that dude, I mean, he's just a football player. He's like Amir Hall from Bowie. I don't know how long you've been following Gameday, but man, we went crazy for Amir Hall from Bowie back in his day, and he never got his shot. And like that's the thing with these HBCU guys. It's like if they get their shot, it's really over because they know they got that one shot. So like that's my thing with the HBCU guys. It's like if you give them a legit shot, like preseason reps, enough to really show who they are, man, it's crazy. But yeah, I think Dankwa is the one this year.
Well, I know you do a lot, man. Extremely a lot, just giving the guys, letting people see them off the field, on the field, the whole behind the scenes look. But what else do you think could be done? Because obviously there's a lot of people who still don't know these names. What else could be done to kind of build a personal brand other than this NIL stuff? That's what could come later on.
Man, my opinion, especially for like the guys themselves, I always tell them like NIL is great, like it's money, but what NIL really opened up is that you can make your own money now. So like the first thing that they should do is really you follow the blueprint. Get a videographer, get a YouTube page, whatever you do a lot or well, or whatever you're trying to make, like do it. And whatever your schedule is, get a schedule and stick to it, even if it's once a week, once a month, twice a week. You know what I mean? And like keep going hard because that's how you get your name up there. I mean, like, we look at what Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter are doing on YouTube, and yeah, they are, they came in with a name, but like they did a lot of work by, what I mean? They could have been spoiled dudes and be like, I ain't getting up to do my own YouTube page. I'm gonna do my little workout, get back to my nice cushy house. But they put in the work of like they post videos, they shoot videos. You know what I mean? And like that's in this day and age, that's what's really gonna get you over the top is like putting in that, that boot work on your own.
Yeah.
And then, the platforms, us, the fans, doing our part to elevate that and accentuate that. You know what I mean? And not just say, at least for me, when I do a project on somebody, I don't try to just make it, hey, look at this cool thing I did. You know what I mean? You want to be like, hey, like he's got a YouTube page. Go check his brand out. You know what I mean? That's why like every time, you see somebody with a shirt, you know what I mean? They come to the camera with a shirt, like I'm gonna try to put it on there, because I know they're gonna clip it. They're gonna see, you know what I mean? It's gonna be a part of their commercial, and that just that little bit of whatever can help. So that's my thing. It's like go for yours. Like NIL ain't just about the deals. It's like you can make money yourself. If you're a wide receiver in college, you can do twice a month workouts for the high school and the young kids. You can do that now. You know what I mean? Charge them 20, get 50 guys. Do the math on that. You know what I mean? That ain't everything, but in college, like,
that's money. That's big bread.
Bro, we was taking chances for that money when I was in school. I'm not even gonna start.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's my advice, especially to the players. Like, do that work and build you a little platform because it'll pay off.
That's a fact. But that's a good point you just brought up. But say they starting out right. Obviously, videographers cost some money. Now, in college, it is like a different atmosphere. We got people out now. You got time, books, and opportunities. So a lot of times, the videographers work for free, especially if it's an athlete that knows got some. I ain't gonna say moving. Got some things going. Obviously, he's taking their brand serious, and as a videographer, he's trying to take his brand serious. You know what I'm saying, do you see any value of them doing a content creation of iPhone if they can't find a content creator?
Oh, without question. Like I came into this as a filmmaker, so for me, it's partially about making them in a certain way, But like if you ain't about the art of it, like you can get busy on your phone. I mean, game day, we work with Neely from the pregame show who does all the stuff for Colorado. He works on his phone
Mm-hmm.
exclusively. It's what he does, is what he's comfortable with, and it's what he can pump out consistently. And like now, I mean, we used to always joke like when Coach Prime came, like Deion Sanders Jr., bro, would be always in the shot. You know what I mean? Like he just would come up, boom, right in front of you with the phone. And at first we were like, this dude, but like, he was using his what he could do and what he had, which was his phone, and really the ability to be like, I'm Coach Prime's son. I could be in the way a little bit. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And he took that off. So like for me, like, yeah, like if especially if the phone is what you're comfortable with and what you're gonna be consistent with. And that's kind of my point, is like if you're gonna be comfortable with the big camera video, do it. If you're gonna be cool with the iPhone, like whatever you're gonna do enough to start a thing, do it. Especially you got a 14, 15, like I
Man,
be seeing those side to side shots creators do now where they put the phone on their camera. They be like, my camera shot, the phone shot, and it's like every year that phone shot get closer and
closer and
closer.
closer. Man,
You know what I mean?
like a
So
little
nah,
T7 out
I
there.
say pro iPhone. I don't do it a lot, but I am pro doing it for sure.
For sure, man. And then back to you, man. Being obviously a cinematic photographer, man. Who was a camera person or just a producer who kind of inspired you to pick up the camera?
Oh man, to pick up the camera, man, I'm a big HBO kid. Like I said, my parents worked. They had a business, so like I think they call them latchkey, but I'm at the house. It's food in the pantry. We be home when the paper gets out, kid. So like I kind of grew up on HBO. So like yeah, I'm a big the Wire, Sopranos. You know what I mean? All of that stuff is kind of what I mean. That's kind of where I'm at. Like I just put out this little pro wrestling mini doc for
Yeah,
Ashe Wrestling. If you're in Charlotte, go check out Ashe. And the last part, I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Ghost Dog,
Ghost Dog. Nah,
with Forrest Whitaker. The RZA is like, I think it's the RZA from Wu Tang's directorial debut is from Forrest Whitaker. It's like a kung fu type movie, but I use Ghost Dog as my little inspiration for the final match because it was with she's mixed, but she's a Japanese wrestler who's Japanese and black, and she's a old school, like a 37-year pro. So she kind of gave me that samurai, black samurai vibe. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm at. You know what I mean? I like the HBO stuff, but like, those old school rap movies, Ghost Dog, Juice. You know what I mean? Like I try to do my own version of that. Like Hype Williams, I consider myself something of like or I hope to be. You know what I mean? Kind of like
nah.
a
Come on,
Hype
it's coming, brother.
Williams of HBCU sports with a little bit of documentary style in that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know.
hmm You highlight a lot of you highlight you know what I'm saying, our race in a positive light, man. What's your opinion on what's your opinion uh of the good that does for us as a community?
Oh, I mean, I'm a positivity begets positivity. You know what I mean? So if you start really at the beginning, like doing things with intention. You know what I mean? Like it's not always about the money. Like money is great, we need it to live, but like I don't even really think you have to be, you don't have to have your Umar Kufi all the way on and be this perfect person. You just need to do things with intention for you, your community, and your people. You know what I mean? And like it's been plenty of times where if you like, even if you come in to do HBC sports, right, like it's cool, but like if you come in with the intention that you're going to use this to get something for yourself, it's always going to be negative. Like no matter what you do, it's always going to end in negativity. But if you come in somewhere and you're like, look, I'm just trying to be positive, you know what I mean, support whatever, like
Yeah.
you can never go wrong. Even if you don't go where you want to go, you can never go wrong. So for me, like it's you know what I mean? It's like that butterfly effect. Like one little drop can ripple out and do so much. And I feel like, especially now with the way things are, and me too, like you feel like, I ain't doing enough, or you got to do some big, huge, grand showing to be like, yeah, you know what I mean? When a lot of times it's like, nah, you just keep doing them little things right with intent and purpose. You know what I mean? The right way. And like, you know
The
what I
brick
mean?
of
We
day.
all, you know what I mean? Type stuff.
With great power comes great responsibility. How do you just building off what you just said, man? How do you handle the power of controlling the narrative?
Man, that's tough. That's a tough one because especially speaking from the HBCU game day lens, it's not a singular thing. It's three individuals who've come together and really connected with about five other individuals, you know
Right,
what I mean, who are integral to the team. And like, we're not really like we're not one of these places that's like you're gonna come in and somebody's gonna tell you what to do because you're the employee. Like we're more of a conglomerate. Like we're more of a collection of individual businesses, entities of their own. You know what I mean? Like you look at what Tolly does with the news, what he does with Simone, what Steve does with writing. We could all do that separately from each other, but we
right,
do it together. You know what I mean? And that gets tough with you know, trying to have HBCU game, they have like one voice. You know what I mean? Because like we all got the password to WordPress. We all can write an article, and you know what I mean. Person A might feel one way, person B might feel another. They might both write articles. You know what I mean about the same thing. That might feel a different way. And so, as a
hmm
business, what do? Right? Do we do we crack down on that? No, HBC. You know what I mean? Our motion is this. No, because that's not life. You know what I mean? That's not real, and it's not an accurate representation of like what we do. So I mean, like, sometimes that narrative can be tricky to be like, hey, this is the thing we want to push, and what we're trying to push is honestly just like truth and like you know what I mean.
right.
So like, we're not really trying to tell you anything other than like, check this out. What you think about this? We saw this. We see that people care about it. How do you really feel? Or here's how I really feel, and that might ruffle some feathers. It might do whatever. We had this whole, the FAMU coaching debacle. You know what I
Right,
mean? But like, we had everybody in game, they felt a different way and was connected in different ways. And so we didn't want our platform to say, here is our narrative and what we think about this situation. Nah, he feel like that. This person feels like that. They're gonna go live Wednesday at noon and talk about it. You know what I mean? And that's what it's gonna be. So like, it's tricky these days because the game is narratives. Like, from the NFL to probably middle school basketball. You know what I mean? Like, like for real, it's all people want the narratives and the stories, but it's like it gets tricky. So I know I just said a whole lot, but
nah, nah,
you
nah.
know, it's a balance. You know.
For sure, for sure. So, have there ever been a time where, like, well, just speak about a time, kind of for the family thing we are. Everybody's got their own opinion and trying to figure out wait for the news to come out. You know what I'm saying? How do y'all kind of like, I just how do y'all find middle ground or whatever? If that makes sense.
I mean, the best part is that, for anyone writing news, there is like a standard. And while these days, like, it would be nice if we could just pop up, we hear something and we just pop up and like, yo, guess
Right,
what I just heard? You know what I mean? But like, we can't really do that because there's relationships, and not just relationships, but there is a process. You know what I mean? And like, if you call yourself a news organization, there are going to be times when you have to like, you know, hear something, validate it, get a second source. You know what I mean? Like, make
right,
sure you know what I mean? Everything's clear before you kick it out there. Really, that's more like Steve and Tolly's department. Like, I built our website, so I'm more just about like, you know, where it goes and how it looks when it gets there, which is great for me. Like, I grew up in a newsroom, and that's what I'm telling. Like, I don't want no parts of that. You know
right,
what
right,
I mean?
right,
Like, just
right,
because it's a tricky thing. Like, I just want to tell stories from my perspective and like turn people up. And I don't really, just me personally, like, I don't really like to get into all of that. You know what I mean? But
rock
like,
star.
at the end of the day, I do really appreciate like my colleagues for how they will be like, like, no, I got something, but I got to make sure to check it. It's got to be checked twice, and even if that means we're late or we missed the boat on a story that we might have had. I mean, I can't tell you how many times something pops up in our HBCU Game Day Slack channel that they're running down the people who do this. They're running it down. They're checking this, checking that, calling people, and then by the time everything gets gathered, well, everybody else done got it and run with it. But we still have to hold that anchor, or we're not who we are. You know
Right,
what I mean? And at the same time, going back to what I said at the beginning, like, it's room for every. Like, that's love. Like, that's what I mean. Like, there was a time when we could wait 2.5 weeks and get everything right because there wasn't a bunch of people talking about or wanting to talk about these things.
Right.
So it's like I'll never forget. Like Tolly said there was one time I was at a game. Steve, somebody said it. They were like, "Man, it's mad cameras in here now. Where all these cameras come from?" And Tolly was like, "I wouldn't want to be doing something that nobody else cared about." And I was like, "Dang, like, like that's facts.
That's
Like,
fact.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, the fact that we're not the only ones here, like, is a good thing. You know what I mean? It serves the mission. So, you
So how
know,
do you?
it's
My bad. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no. I was done.
So like, obviously, it's a lot of media. Like you just said, it's a lot of people, a lot more cameras in the room. Uh, y'all are a well respected brand, but just like, how do y'all kind of navigate, even though y'all are well respected, and kind of just keep y'all footed? Obviously, y'all do a lot to kind of keep the integrity of the brand. You behind the scenes doing a lot of things, but what competition on the rise? How do y'all kind of keep yourself relevant?
Mm. Man, just keep doing the work, and
Yeah.
also realize that like relevant is a subjective term. You know what I mean? And like I'm a firm believer in like everybody has a turn, and like sometimes it's not your turn for everything. You know what I mean? And like for us, like we're not going to jump out any window to stay relevant. You know what I mean? Like that's just not,
Hmm.
we're not going to just be like, oh well, you know, da da. Like we're going to do things to make our business better and look at what's happening and adapt and adjust. But like sometimes, and I'm sure you know this, like changing a creative strategy like that ain't turning a speedboat around. It's a tanker. You know what I mean? And like things are already in place and it's
Hmm.
hard. And I'm guilty of like I talk about 2019 like it was like 2 years ago. You know
Man.
what I mean? And like that was really a whole nother era. And sometimes I catch myself like still doing those things and being in those processes. And it's like, bro, that was a whole 5 years plus COVID. That's like 10 years on the old timeline. We you know what I mean? And so like things change so fast and like I would say my thing is like don't jump out the window to be relevant. Like even if you feel like, oh, there's people coming at you, coming at the bottom, like once just start again, like stop doing stuff with intent. You know what I mean? Once you just start, oh, well, I got to be relevant, so let's just do this and let's throw this out there in a way we normally wouldn't because other people gonna get it. Well, then, who was it say you bound to drizzle? You know what I mean? It's just like one of those things. Like it's
Yeah.
never gonna end well. So like, we try to do stuff, and honestly, I would say like I'm at a point now where I'm trying to let the young people lead. My guy Josh Williams, our lead videographer, dog, he's crushing it. Simone out there in Atlanta, she covers baseball. She's at.
Hmm.
I don't think I've seen a event
Oops.
HBCU tangent that Simone isn't a part of now. You know what I mean? So really, it's like pushing them in the forefront and like having the humbleness about ourselves to take a step back and maybe go do some grown folk stuff that might lead to really taking it to a next level instead of trying to being caught in this like you know shoot a video, make a video. It's got to be the hottest thing out and all this
Right.
da da da. You know what I mean? So like, now we're trying to push the young people to the forefront. Still be creative, but like, you know, I go crazy. It ain't, sometimes it ain't your turn. It might be somebody else's turn right now. And like, honestly, like, salute to them for real.
Nah, most definitely, man. Taking you back to where it all started, man. Winston Salem, North Carolina, man. Just how was the upbringing, man?
Oh man, Winston, like, if you ever meet anybody from Winston, especially my age, like, we gonna tell you it was the greatest thing ever, and then you gonna be like, "How?" We gonna tell you a whole bunch of bad stuff, but like with reverence. I mean, it was great. Like the sports culture in Winston growing up for me, and it's something I want to do a project on. Like it was like none other. Like what I mean. So many people. You know what I mean. Like going to the Y and Chris Paul just be hanging out at the Y. You know what I mean? Like that's a lot of, especially Chris is a year older than me. And like, yeah, I know Chris, reasonably well. You know what I mean? We're not like best of friends or anything, but like that's how
Right.
Winston was. Like if you were at your Y in your side of town, like you had a guy who who played big time college football, basketball, whatever, or was in the league. You know what I mean? And like it's just great. And most of those guys have now came back to coach and are, you know what I mean, are all kind of like connected in these weird, crazy ways. Just like we was talking about the Ray Agnew jersey over there. Ray Agnew, I think, works for the NFL now, and like he's been kind of like on the low, like scouting HBCU and black players from his community to come up. You know what I mean? So like it was great, dog. Like going to Winston-Salem State games, Winston-Salem State football games. I remember I got Ed Coda's autograph one time at a Winston-Salem. Like he was just chilling. You know what I mean? So like that's the sports culture, being at Rupert Bell Park, playing basketball. Like man, Winston was a beautiful thing throughout everything, especially sports. Like especially my era. I'm about to turn 38. Like man, we had it. So salute to everybody, man, because it was really some good times out there.
So did you play ball up there, or what I'm saying, what you
Man,
kind
a
of do
little bit.
fun?
Nothing to write home about. Nothing to write home about. I was a rec league all star.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell me nothing about my
First
Y
team.
game. But nah, nothing to write home about, man. I was like I said, I was either at the paper, and then once I kind of got free a little bit, I was what they call them, a wayward youth in a way. I was outside. Uh, so it really wasn't until I really picked up the camera when I was about 20 that I like found something that I really like wanted to focus on. You know what I mean? But like, I don't know, man. Winston was great, especially going to Carver. I had a guy under me, Herb Miller, was the quarterback at A&T for a minute. Like, plenty of people went to Central and played
Mhm.
football. So it's like all of this stuff is like it's familiar. Like my high school lunch table, my senior year, I had like 5 people my first year at Central from the same lunch table. You know what I mean? So it's like the community is just huge, man. I can't say enough about it. I'm in Charlotte now. I'm closer to home than I've ever been. Um, as an adult. So I can't say enough about it, man. For real.
For sure. I gotta ask because you keep bringing up the paper. I know that was a big foundation. For saying, for what came to fruition nowadays. You know what I'm saying? So like, how was it? Did your pop like? Did you make you do it? You know what I'm saying? Or did you do it by choice? And what biggest traits did you get from that experience?
I mean, from the paper, my dad's paper was the Winston-Salem Chronicle. It's still the oldest paper in Winston. He doesn't own it anymore, but shout out to Mr. Taylor. He's on the city council who actually runs it. It's for the East Winston is the black community in Winston, and so when he came, it was kind of to give a voice to that community. You read the local newspaper,
Yeah, voice of the
especially
voiceless.
in the 80s and 90s, and you hear, oh, this happened over in East Winston, but you don't never hear nobody from East Winston tell you what happened in East
Hmm.
Winston. You know what I mean? So like, I mean, it really was everything. Like all of my experiences, like all the cool stuff I got to do. I was a ball boy in the CIAA tournament every year is at Winston. You know what I mean? Like little stuff like going to Johnson C. Smith basketball camp, like not even needing to like be signed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, oh, there go Mr. Pitt. Oh, Wali, grab a ball. You at camp today because I got some work to do. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah,
it was, and I can't say enough about just the like. I mean, just the community building. Like even when I started with HBCU sports, like my connection was Tolly through my pops, but I get there, I see a whole bunch of people like, bro, no, I remember you Pitbull son, I remember you here when you was this tall. You know what I mean? And those same guys who were covering HBCUs then are covering them now. And like, you know what I mean? I personally I just feel blessed to like have been in a situation to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I tell a lot of people like, you know what I mean? Like being I'm the son that I want to have. You know what I mean? Like I want to be able to do for my kids what my pops did for me. So I mean, like I really can't say enough about it. I mean, was there some stuff for us? Yeah, that I have to sell newspapers on the corner downtown Winston at 10 years old for when I probably wanted to be on the Y team or be playing Pop Warner, but you couldn't because the schedule ain't work out. Yeah, you know what I mean? Little stuff like that, but
right.
no, I wouldn't change it for the world, man. Everything that you go through, it makes you who you are. So I wouldn't change it at all. But yeah, it was everything, man. Especially the ball boy. I did a package on the ball boys. I love being a ball boy at the CI. Beat Magic Johnson. I got a Vander Holyfield's
You met
autograph
Magic Johnson?
at the CI. No, the CIAA tournament in the '90s, like in Winston, was like it was crazy because people went for the games. Keep in mind, this is the Virginia Union era too. So like Union is stupid nice, and then the vendors was like a totally separate party thing, and then you had mass celebrities just in your city. So we used to just go around, and we had the little book in the pen, and you'd be like, "Oh, there go Evander, there go this," you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And like you get their little autograph. It was before pictures. We ain't had the cameras yet, you know what I mean? But yeah, I met Magic Johnson at the CI. Like he was in line getting food like everybody else. You know what I mean? Like just crazy. And it's still kind of like that for real. the CI in Baltimore is coming along. I know this year I think it's really going to settle into what his vibe is going to be.
Can we are we expecting a doc? Are we expecting a big time doc from the one and only?
For me, I gotta, like I said, I'm pushing the youngins out. So I think
Yeah.
Josh might have to go.
Okay.
I got a 5-year-old and my little daughter just turned 1.
Yeah.
And it's real tough, them trips. Tell her mom, like, have fun.
Right.
See you
Right.
later. And I'm gone. So this year I kind of feel back a little bit from taking the trips. I want to do one. I can slight breaking news. We are doing something for the HBCU All-Star game this year. I can't get into the real details, but we will do something for the HBCU All-Star this year. It's going to be live. It's going to be more focused on the kids themselves than what happened in the games, which teams win the championship and all of that. But I don't know. I want to go to the CI, and if I'm there, you'll get a doc unless something pops up. So if I'm there, and Josh, I mean, I can't say enough for Josh. At No Other J on Instagram, like he's had our Instagram going crazy with the Winston Livingstone and everything. So like, the mini doc era might be dwindling, but Josh got me on the social hype video. Is bigger than it's ever been. So I got to shout him out for real.
That's a bit. That's a bit. Talk to go ahead and give the brother a little more platform. So what else can you say about the brother, man?
Look, so let me tell you about my boy Josh. Shout out Josh Williams at No Other J. So he was the mascot for Livingstone when he went to college, right? I actually got videos that I shot of a game at Livingstone where he popping up on my camera at the end of the game, throwing the four up.
Yeah.
But he just came to me as a senior. He just hit us up. I don't even remember how he hit us up, but he was like, "Yeah, like I want an internship. I'm trying to shoot video." He ended up doing like a real traditional, independent study internship his senior year. And man, he just gravitated to the camera. He's just an artist. You know what I mean? Like he's just one of those guys. And like after his internship ended, he was like, I'm not leaving. You know what I mean? So like even at a time where we didn't have money to pay him like at all, you know what I mean? He just kept going, kept going. Like, you know, I think I even let him hold one of my cameras. I was like, oh, if you're gonna use it, you can hold it. And like he's still using it. You know what I mean, to this day. And like he's just gotten so much better. Like, and for me, like it means more than like any accolade to see somebody who popped up on you like, yo, I'm just out here having fun with the camera. And now like he nicer to me at a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? And like you know what I mean, to transfer that, because for me it's a craft. Like,
Yeah.
I take it pretty seriously, probably too seriously. You know what I mean? For real. Like making being a filmmaker, it is who I am. Like I said, like honestly, if it wasn't for that, I would probably be like just another little knucklehead, kid, spoiled, you know what I mean, up under my pop's coattail, all this
Yeah.
whoop-de-woo. Like, you know what I mean? The camera was really the first thing where I was like, nah, this is me. You
It's
know
me.
what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, this is Wali, not, you know what I mean? Nothing else aside with it. So, like, to see that in Josh now and to see what he's done, like, he did something for the John Wall Classic that was, like, crazy. I think he's been shooting for the John Wall Classic 2 or 3 years, in a row. So like, I mean, I really just can't say enough. And his work gets better. Now I'm just like, I'm hands off. He'd be like, should I do? I'm like, you need to just tell me what you gonna do. And I'll help you in any way I can. You know what I mean? So like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the goal. And hopefully Josh, get him a Josh and then a Josh, you know what I mean? And like,
Right.
we build on it before you know it, I want to come back to the CI in, 10, 15 years and
Spectator.
they're as a spectator, but I want them to be fighting. I want there to be 5 docs being made, and all 5 of
Right.
those people making docs are in competition for 6, 7 figure contracts for the doc. You know what I mean? Like that's the type of energy I want us to be on. Like
Right.
go look at some of these Netflix documentaries, though, they come out with it'd be 2, 3, 4 documentaries on the same subject.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the Jeffrey Dahmer thing, I ain't watch it, but like I saw at least 3 different platforms have 3 different pieces of media about it. Firefest, 3 different documentaries. Like that's what I want us to be on. You know what I mean? Like the bidding war for the next generation of HBCU content. You know what I mean? Like,
No, that's fair. I think a
and
lot of
then,
times. No, my
so
bad. I'm sorry.
nah. You see, I'm a talker. Go ahead.
You
You don't have to
good. You
cut me
good.
off.
Now, I think a lot of times, what I'm saying, we get like, just as media people, we get like, we see something that's done, like, it's a cool story. You know what I'm saying? So just to hear that perspective, like, nah, this because art is subjective. You know what I'm saying? Art can be redone over different times that people like just by different perceptions. So I think that's a value perspective what you just gave.
And taking it, not being caught in the social media of it. And,
Hmm.
at least one thing is like, you know, yeah, it's great to love what you do, but do at least try to make it a business. You know what I mean? Because everybody else out there is a business. Like I look at all of these schools, all of these platforms, all of these pages, and it's just like there's so much out there. And like, representation is important. Like somebody might not have even known it was possible to have a video of an HBCU sporting event be watched. So like, you start and like I look at Tolly and Tolly was doing this, I used to watch Tolly on the news when I was in middle school. You know what I mean? Like I got stories of people who still mad at Tolly right now because they didn't get the post game interview on Friday after the game. Like in Winston, when Tolly was coming out, that was like if Tolly interviewed you after the game or Friday Night Lights, you were live all week. You know what I mean? Like you were lit. So
Yeah,
like even just like watching what he did covering Winston, him transferring that on to me transferring that on to Josh. You know what I mean? Even people like you, like, we didn't know each other at all. We had Coach Fly was our connection. I
shout out to
saw
Coach
what you did
Fly.
with the mic'd up. I was like, no, like we gotta do this and we gotta do it the right way. You know what I mean? And we can't just be like, oh yeah, give it to me. I'm gonna make it lit. Click, click,
Right,
click,
right,
and it's
right.
great. You know what I mean? You want to try to like make a business out of it, take it to the next level. Shoot for the stars, land in the clouds. Like that's just kind of how I've always been raised. So like, you know, even for you and what you're doing, like you're going crazy right now. You know what I
Nah,
mean? I
man,
love
I
everything
appreciate you.
you do. Like sometimes I'll be seeing, I'll be like, is that dang, he doing another different type? Like it's another, you know what I mean? Like it's an interview, it's a game. How you know what I mean? So like, nah, just to give you your flowers real quick, like,
I appreciate you.
as a young dude coming, like just keep going. Like it's gonna be hard. Like they gonna love you, they gonna hate you, and guess what? They gonna love you again. You know what I mean? So like just keep going. Like it's like that meme where the dude is digging and the
Yeah,
diamond is right there. You know what I mean? Like I'll never want to be the dude who stops before
three
you reach
feet.
the diamond, and that's like my whole credo. So for real.
Nah, for sure, for sure. I want to thank you again, man, for putting. I didn't when I initially switched it, I didn't know he was gonna put all the whole thing on the website. So I was like, man, this is dope, man. That made my rest of my half month. So I want to say thank you again for that. That gave me another kick in my engine. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't gonna stop. You know what I'm saying? That just gave me put me in overdrive a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Now, I mean, and you need that, and that, again, it's like like you said, like, what can you do to give back? Like, I'm just a big believer in community and like little stuff like that. Like, it don't got to be everything in the world. It can be as simple as, like, what did I really give up to do that? Like, 2 hours? You know what I mean? Like, I stopped what I was doing. I took a little bit of time to put this here. Yeah, it might not have drove the world crazy, but just like you said, like, you were
Yeah,
like, nah, that gave me a little juice, right? Like,
yeah,
watch, and one day it's gonna give you the juice that you're gonna make that thing that's gonna be the thing, and then you out of here. You know what I
right,
mean? And
right.
like that's synergy. That's what they call it. You know what I mean? So
Facts.
nah, that's love. I saw that. I've been wanting to do mic'd ups with Coach Fly too. I saw it. I was like, oh snap! I was like, I got to. Coach Fly, one of the best. He one of the best coach motivators in HBCU right now. Like, period. Like,
Hands
I
down.
could listen to Coach Fly all day.
Facts. He need to just or he get enough content, like somebody gonna have to clip it up and just like how they got David Goggins right now. That's gonna be coach. That's gonna be coach
And what's
automatically.
crazy is like when I talk to him afterward, Coach Fly will give you a whole sermon. And then like an hour later, he'd be like, I was really nervous. Was it okay? I'm like, bro, was it okay? I'm like, what you talking about, bro? Like, we all ready to run through walls. But nah, so that was love.
Nah, facts. Coach passion. I plan on going up there, you know what I'm saying, to get some content one, but like, coach will be on the athletic. I'm trying to go up there and hopefully, what I'm saying, we can do whatever he wanna do. If you run 5, 10 miles, what I'm saying, whatever. I'm trying to, I'm saying. I just need that
Look,
so I
I
can
need
go
him.
up
I need him as my trainer. I done fell off. Look, I got the editor's body right now.
there.
I need to get back in the shooter to my shooter's form.
Hey man, he on the road. You know what I'm saying? I'm probably push up there
Yeah, he really is.
spring, summer, somewhere around that time.
Yeah.
For sure. But I think you got in your bio on HBCU Game. I should have had the website pulled up by like lead knucklehead. But to segue from there into kind of what you said about, you know what I'm saying, your pops having the oldest run a newspaper in Winston-Salem, was there ever a time that you kind of like, as you got older, like you feel like you could, well, I was being that shadow of like this little Pitt, you know what I'm saying? I know my pops, he did a lot of extraordinary things. So kind of like, before I found out what I was going to do, like, man, I don't want to just be, you know, because you got leverage by being your pop son, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to just kind of fall back in that shadow. You want to kind of make your own name, your own lane for yourself. So how did you handle that in that process?
Man, and it's crazy. And like, especially like being a black man, like just, keeping it all the way a buck, like it's an extreme luxury. You know what I mean? It's almost something where like, especially growing up, it wasn't something I like to talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people always be like, oh, what, da, da, da. It's like, because you feel like, you know what I mean? Like you can feel the weight of the expectation before you even know what it is. You know what I mean? You be 9, 10 years old being like, dang, like, you feel it.
Yeah.
And for me, like at first it was acting out. You know what I mean? If I'm being real, it was like, okay,
Fact.
well,
Yeah, me too.
you know what I mean? Like just for real, like when you're younger, it's like, okay, well, this is how I'm gonna be myself. But now it was really crazy. Just in another one of the like community connecting dots. So I went to North Carolina Central for 2 years. My
Mm-hmm.
second year, my pops got me an internship at the Tallahassee Capital Outlook, which is the basically the same version of his paper, but in Tallahassee that's connected to FAMU. It's the weekly community black newspaper. The publisher of that paper is Vaughn Wilson's father, who works for us, a man named Roosevelt Wilson, who is like, he was FAMU's SID. He is like a legend at FAMU. Vaughn punted at FAMU. He was the SID at FAMU. Like, he's Mr. FAMU. So basically, his dad was my dad's intern back in the day. So my dad said, all right, now my son is your intern, right? And I went down there and just doing the newspaper thing, really just doing what I was told because I didn't want to go back home and I was in school. So let me just play this thing out. And I went down there and man, like I love the Capital Outlook. Tallahassee was cool, but I was like, yeah, this is not for me. You know what I mean? Just like going to elementary school openings and board of trustees meetings.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, no, my pops was the type, we used to have to write a 500-word essay to get something. So like if we wanted our ear pierced, we had to write a 500-word essay about why you want, the Allen Iverson jersey. You got to write a 500-word essay on why you want it and why you need it, right? So writing 500 words was like
Cake.
easy. You know what I mean? Like I grew up doing that. So I just went down. I was like, bro, it's not for me. Like I want to go to film school. And I actually transferred from Central uh, Cape Fear Community College in Wilmington because in North Carolina, that's where the film industry is. I did it in Tallahassee that summer. And was kind of like, I don't know how this is going to go.
Online?
Like online. I transferred from Central to Cape Fear online while I was in Florida. And then I just called Pops, was like, this is what I'm doing. And I was expecting them to be like, oh, word, like, have fun doing it by yourself, click. You know what I mean? And I ended up telling on my little exit interview at the Outlook, I told him, I was like, honestly, it's not really for me. I want to go to film school. I was like, I've already done it. I've technically already done it, but I don't know how my pops is gonna feel. And he was like, man, you'll be good. He was like,
Mm.
as long as you bout something, da da da. And like, I'll never forget it. And I ended up, it's so crazy because like I would see Vaughn, in there, when I'm in there bored in the newsroom, in Florida for this summer. I knew zero people in Tallahassee. There was no social. This is the summer of '06. So like, you know what I mean? It's not
Right.
like I could just pop on social. Who in Tally? Like, what's cracking? Like, nah. Like, I was just in a new city chilling. And I would see Vaughn come in, so I knew his face. And I covered in 2016. I was covering my first season of Game Day. I covered FAMU versus Coastal Carolina at Coastal, and we on the little press box elevator, and me and Vaughn looking at each other. And keep in mind, it's crazy. It's exactly 10 years. Now that I think about it, that was summer '06. This was 2016, week 2 of the football season. So pretty much almost a decade exactly apart. We looking at each other in the elevator like, dog, I know this dude.
Right.
But we didn't say anything. And then I ended up getting a post-game interview, and we connected the dots right there. Like, oh, you're, da da da. So like, even just that little thing, like you said, how do you deal with the responsibility of it? It's like you use it and you network and you build on your community. And the second that I said, okay, I want to try to put my flag in the ground and put my stake, well, here's somebody a part of that community that was right there. And now Vaughn works with us largely off of the strength of that one meeting. He got his number. He followed game day. I see him when we shoot, and now he's like, you know, basically our Tallahassee branch of the business. So like, and another guy who is doing something off of what his father taught him, same as the both of us. So I mean, it's just
building blocks.
God, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, however you want to call it, like it's just one of those things, community and doing stuff with intent. You know what I mean? Me being like, I want to do something for Black college sports. Like, you know what I mean? I wanted to work for the Panthers. Like that would have been dope. You know what I mean? Or to work for UNC. But like, I was like, nah, like I want to. When I saw the Celebration Bowl 2015 and I saw Tariq Cohen, I was like, that dude needs his own thing. You know what I mean? I was like,
Right.
it ain't no way that like there's not a Black newspaper or a Black something that's like already telling this dude's story. You know what I mean? And like that was the genesis of it. For
Thanks.
real.
Yeah. Yeah. My bad, brother.
Nah, you good. Look, you gotta get that. You get that mail drop off. You gotta take it.
Might as well see what I got coming in.
Look, might be a check in there.
Hey, if it have been, you see him, you smile. Yeah. But I was gonna ask you something else. I forgot now. It'll come back to me. I'm gonna move on to the locks, brother. You know what I'm saying? Just obviously, did you have to write another 500 word article about the locks?
Nah, see, I was in my buck phase at this point. So this was, I mean, I got a haircut. Honestly, my last haircut was 10th grade, and it was that it was my mama can't tell me to cut my hair no more. I'm over six. I'm like 6'1". I was a grown, you know what I mean? I was like, nobody's telling me what to do. And I was really on my Bob Marley. Like a lot of people, like if you go to Central, like they're not gonna know Wali. They're gonna be like, oh, Bob Marley from the third floor of Chitley. You know what I mean? Like I was heavy on my Rasta, Birkenstocks, and people tell me now they're like, bro, you was the first Black hippie I ever met. I was like, I wish it was cool because it wasn't cool then. You know what I mean? But that's just what I was on. And just being your authentic self. Like I love the fact of, you know what I mean? Like not that I'm too crazy about my hair, but it's just one of those things where like as a young Black man, like you don't have a ton of these ways to express yourself, right? And like coming out, like being able to shake your dreads. Like ask anybody who's ever had locks. Like there's a feeling with being like, nah, I can shake my, you know what I mean? Like I can shake I am a, you know what I mean? Like I'm a man, I'm a lion, I'm a this, that, and the third. So I was heavy on that. And now, shoot, I'm just trying not to go too bald. When they just get back here, bro, it's gone. You're not gonna, bro. When I get it's done. It's gonna be nothing but bucket hats. Bucket hats and fedoras after that, because I ain't gonna do that. But now I'm just like, look, I'm in too deep to get a cut. So
I feel it. I know. I was on. I think it was on the Facebook or something. You had you made a reference to Peter Tosh and Bob. I was like, yeah, he's definitely tagged.
Oh yeah.
Know about Peter. They know about Bob. They don't know about Peter.
Oh man, Peter Tosh was my guy. The AK-47 bass guitar. I'm like, bro, that's one of the hardest things in music history.
Telling you.
And I'm going to the Bob Marley movie comes out next week.
Come on,
in
brother.
theaters. So
come on.
I'm gonna be in there. Yeah, for sure, for certain.
I was looking at the trailer. Man, the man don't look nothing like Bob. But once I found out it was through the family, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot.
See, I go both ways with that because like I feel like sometimes like like the Tupac movie, right?
Yeah.
Him looking so much like Pac almost took away from it because you're so locked in. Like in my opinion, like they just need to look enough similar for the actor to pull it off. Because like a lot of in my opinion, some of the best biopics, whatever you want to call it, like the person don't really look like them, but they play it so well that they become them. And as you're watching it, you're not so locked into like, you don't look like such. You know what I mean? Like if they're doing it right, they don't need to look exact. And sometimes when it's too exact, it becomes about how they look exactly like the person, which takes away from the story to me personally. But I
Right.
saw the trailer, and again, I didn't, you know,
You locked in
it's
day
Bob
one. Yeah.
Marley. He got
Yeah.
a, brown skin with the little goatee and some locks. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like for me, it ain't that complicated, but I think it's gonna be dope for sure.
For sure. Now, what type of pushback, back then, what type of pushback did you get by just being your authentic self, having the locks, you know what I'm saying? Obviously doing what comes along with that culture.
Man, I could call it pushback. Most of the pushback was attitude. Most of the pushback I got, honestly, I caused just by not, like I said, like I didn't find something that I really locked in and cared about until I made my first music video in community college in Wilmington. I was like, oh, we on to something. You know what I mean? And not that I was like super buck wild, but I was just young and kind of, you know what I mean? So like I look back at stuff and like honestly with my brain, I look at it with today, I think about the things I could have done differently to avoid getting some of that pushback more than I'm like, you know, look at every time, somebody made a locks comment or you know what I mean, like a teacher asked me to cut my hair,
Right.
any of these little micro things that happen every day, like a lot of that was avoidable. But I mean, it's I did it on purpose too, like you know what I mean. I cultivated a look on purpose, and I knew the get back that was gonna come from that. You know what I mean? So,
Facts.
you say that like I couldn't pay to get a job. I'll never forget like going to Central. I tried to work at Food Lion. I
Have you?
tried to work everywhere. And at that time, the early 2000s, like,
True, true, true.
I had my little goatee, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you got dreads and a beard, like criminal next, you know what I mean?
Oh,
And like,
man.
yeah, but I would be lying to myself if I didn't say that that was a part of the vibe I was trying to extend. You know what I mean? So like, it's six of one, half dozen of another. Um, but I don't know how old you are, but yeah, it's like that look back
26.
then, like, oh, so you 26, so yeah, you came up in the independent era, but nah, like how you look determined like what you were. You know what I mean? Almost to a certain extent. Like if you were, if you was a pretty boy, you dress like this and you look like that. If you were, you know what I mean, a dreads guy, you look like this. You hanged over here with these people. Like, after I feel like after my generation, really like kind of, I mean, you 26, you way into it, but like 10 years after me, it came more about like, all right, who are you? You know
Right.
what I mean? Like you can look a certain way and then be like a totally different
Person.
you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like that back then. Like
So
it was
no intermingling. Like if you was in one group of people, you didn't cross over
a
and like,
little
hey,
bit, but it was rare. And it was like two people from each group could bounce around to other groups, but everybody didn't really come together. You know what I mean? Like it was weird like that. But that's also the thing about Winston, especially going to Carver, was
mm-hmm.
like it was a small school and it was community based. So it was like even like the Chris Paul thing, it was like you didn't have to really be friends with certain type of people to like know them or have had interactions with them at school or at a Y or like you know what I mean? Like they used to bus us like to make sure that like it was a mix of races. So you had like white kids taking a bus an hour to the black side of school town to that school. You know what I mean? You had soccer programs in Winston who were intentionally like, no, like let's go get these kids and play soccer. So in Winston, by the time we got to high school, it was like, yeah, okay, I might be what I mean? I might be on my reggae roster stuff. You know what I mean? But I also know this dude. I know that dude, man. We played basketball 6 years ago at the Y that one time. You remember we had to sleep over and da da da. You had all these little connect. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So it was
yeah.
like you were separate, but you also kind of knew each other as well. And especially and now there's none of that. It's like a huge community. Like I'll link with people who I was like, "Boy, I knew you hated me back in the day," and they're like, "Nah, it's all love." You know what I mean? It's like I love what you're doing. Da da da. Like keep it going. So like, man, it's love, and hopefully it's like that everywhere. And all we can do is kind of do our part to put more of that in the air.
Most definitely. So you know what I'm saying. The thing about just having lots, you feel like alongside just give you confidence, you know what I'm saying, just give you strength or just kind of explain the whole process, you know what I'm saying, when your hair gets long, you know what I'm saying, touches your shoulders.
Well, look, I'm gonna tell you this part. Everybody with locks, most dudes with locks are cool because we made it through the ugly phase.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
it's a phase when it's doing like this, before it drops. You look, especially me, like I kept it all the way natural. I've never
Yeah.
had a real actual
Retwist.
twist. Like I twist them myself. Yeah, people be like, you need to get it retwisted. I'm like, bro, I've never had the first twist to get the retwist. You know, you feel me? But it's just one of them things, and like, yeah, it's like you make it through that ugly phase when your hair start dropping. It gets about here, people change. They're like, "Oh, why you so cool?" It's like, bro, I was sideshow Bob for like 2 years. You know what I mean? Like I've been, I was humbled, by the experience of looking wild for a little bit. But now I don't know. Like now, I mean, like I say, it's been probably 20 years now, I would say. So I don't know. It's like so normal to me now, but nah, it was a big thing. Like especially when I was young, like my hair was important. You know what I mean? And the fact
Yeah.
that I grew and stuck with it. You know what I mean? Like it was one of those things. I know a lot of people they cut them like, nah, I can't do it. When I go bald, I'm gonna go bald, and that's gonna
All
be
the
that.
way.
But nah, it's hard to explain it. It's hard to put it into words. You know what I mean? It's honestly, it's like I feel like it's the same feeling people get like with sports, right? Like when I'm interviewing somebody, a lot of times I like to ask them, like, man, what was that one moment where like, a Pop Warner game or something, you know what I mean, where you just knew, like, oh snap, like this basketball is for me, or this football, like I'm gonna try to do this. You know what I mean? It's like always that one moment, you know what I mean? Of you found that thing that kind of makes you you. And for some people it's locks. For some people it's hoop, for some people it's singing. You know what I mean? Like once you
Hmm.
find that thing that makes you you, you know what I mean? Like run it to the ground. So but that's what I'm doing. But like I said, I'm seeing myself in the camera right now, boy.
Hey, just let that thing hang, bro. Let that thing hang. As long as you
Nah,
can.
I got one of my homeboys. He got a patch right here.
And it's going back.
It's just a circle. He just got the
Oh,
circle, and he's
types.
he in that point where he having to make real life decisions about his. I told him just to go with hats because he like 6'5", so I'm like, bro, it's not too many people gonna be looking at the top of your head. Like,
Yeah.
get you a little beret. He need one of them the middle hats though. He can't get a bill hat though. He can't do that. He need one of them little joints in the middle. You need a kufi or something.
Yeah, yeah. Put them on game. Put them on game. Not
Yeah.
not one of
So
them
look,
yarmulkes.
look. When it's time for me to come home, I'm coming home. It ain't gonna be no question about it.
Nah, I hear you, brother. You know what I'm saying? I like that. I wish I would have grew mine back in the day, but I had to do the same storyline. I had to do the whole rebel thing, and I went for whatever reason I had nuts for it back then, but I probably should have. But anyway, uh, we're gonna talk about your it's one of your personal stories. See, make sure I'm on the right one. Short story about Mr. Self Destruct, man. You got it coined as a young man named Darius. You know what I'm saying? He's a firearm runner for the criminal underworld for the CIPA. For those who don't know what CIPA is, the congenital intensity. It's no, that's disorder. He's born with CIPA, congenital
Hold on, which
intensity
one you
syndrome.
talking about? This the self
Project.
destruct.
Yeah, that's the one where he runs
Oh,
to.
oh, you went. Oh, you've been googling.
Come on now,
You
brother. I
done
got to
you
do
done
my
did your
homework.
googles. All right, so check this out. Right, that is a guy I went to K Fair Film School with. Shout out to my boy Tyler Hickman. He actually works at Try at CW. He just won an Emmy
Tough.
last year for something he did. Um, but man, like really, that is effective Cape Fear Community College Film School, and something I tell people all the time. Like, if you want to get into the film industry in North Carolina and like work and like do it as like a real like serious thing, like go to Cape Fear. Like when I left Central, I went there just to get my credits. It's always like a little bit of credits in between the school you transfer from and the program you want to go to.
Right.
So the first, I think it was like semester, it might have been the whole first year. I was just getting my credits right of stuff that I had missed or dropped the ball on at Central. And like HBCUs, I don't know if it's still like this, but like when I was a freshman at Central, we had a class that was called the Black Experience, right? Where like that every freshman took. Some of those like HBCU Black specific classes didn't translate because I don't think they were like specifically labeled as like a history. It would be like, they would call it like a humanities course or you know what I mean? And there was some gap between some of them classes and the stuff at UNCW and stuff that I had failed or just not gotten a good enough grade on, where I had to clean it up. So I spent that first year cleaning it up, right? And then when I went to transfer, they were like, it's a year and a half wait list to even like
Get
get
in.
like to not to apply. You can apply, but it was a year and a half wait list for them to even look at your application to see if you could get in. And so I was like, dang, like I remember them telling me that, and I was like, I'm going home. I remember being like, I guess I'm going back to Winston like this. I ain't
Right.
gonna wait for a year and a half. But the lady was like, she was like, but we actually have a film and video class here. It's a certificate now, but we're making it a 2-year associate's degree. You could go take that, while you wait. So I was like, okay, and it's a community college. So at the time, 4 classes, which is full time, it was like $500-$600. So I had a job, and I was like, all right, boom. So I stayed that one summer because I lived at the beach. So I was like, I ain't leaving in the summer. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I got a little job, and so I was like, all right, bet. Like I was like, I'm gonna try this, and if it's whack, like I'm already back in Winston anyway. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter. And I went, and dog, it's ran by this man named Duke Fire. He's like a picture of Hell's Angel with a camera. Like he's just a
Hmm.
rough looking white dude, rough and tumble, real cool guy. And the film program at the time, it was like a set that was just in this warehouse. So I walked in the first day, dude comes from behind the corner, sits down. I'm like, okay, he's different. Like he was like,
Facts.
look, he was like, look, if you chose this class as just an elective, come see me in the office. I'm gonna give you a C, and you never have to come back. He was like, anybody, because they get like, well, I don't even know if I should be drunk. Well, there was a certain amount of money you got as a community college for having kids signed up X amount, right? So he was like, I don't care how many kids sign up, because the more they sign up past this period, that's when we get our check. He was like, so y'all can stay for this. He was like, I'll give you a C. You never have to come back. He was like, but if you stay, he was like, if you come back, I want you to be serious about filmmaking and take this. And he was cussing. He was like, he was going in. He was like, I want you to take this seriously, and like this is what it is. Your first assignment is a 30-second commercial. Come check the cameras out for me in the back. I'm gonna be in my office. I was like, yo, I was like, this is definitely different.
Hmm.
And so and that's how I met Tyler, the guy who made Mr. Self Destruct. I didn't even know what he put that on my IMDb or something.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, no, no. This on the
That's
LinkedIn.
love.
It's on
It's on my
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, so he must have done that. He must have recommended me for that. But that was just a school class project, and Tyler's he's big on action movies, so he wanted to do action movies. And he might have been in my group for that first project. So I started doing projects, and it was like week 2. He was like, just do a personal project.
Hmm.
And I went and I shot a music video for my boy. It was guns and all types of depravity in the video, but I did it. I got it done. And bro, I'll never forget. Like I walked in, and when I walked in, I could hear all the groups talking about how they didn't have their projects done. Oh, we
Hmm.
still got to do this. I was like, as I'm walking past all these conversations, and so we sat down, and boy, he let us have it. He was
Yeah.
like, "You got my stuff out. I've seen you over here BSing, not working. I saw you over here." He was like, "And nobody has a project." So I was like,
Right.
I got one, right? Put it on. Beat drops. Half the class is like, oh, he about to get kicked out of school. Like, I didn't really process all of the things I had put into it, because when I made it, I remember just being like, yo, I made something.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, I was like, oh, that is a pistol. I was like, oh, snap, there's another pistol. I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done this. You know what I mean? But it ended. And he was like, he looked me dead in my eye. He was like, did you really do this? And at first I was like equal parts offended and honored. You know what I mean? I was
Yeah.
kind of like, what? And he was like, nah. He was like, I just want to be sure you didn't like go steal a music video online, because that looks like the real deal. And I was like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? Like it was that feeling. Like
Tough.
I
Yeah.
can't even describe it. Like when he said that looks like the real deal, I was like, oh, I'm in here. And like it was a wrap. It was a wrap from there. So like, and like you say, you bring up Mr. Self Destruct, Tyler. I think I let him use my apartment, and like maybe a camera dog. Like I might have done 2 or 3 things on that, but like the Cape Fear, like he was in my class. He must have put that on LinkedIn, and that's love. I actually just talked to him, online. Like I said, he won a Emmy for something he's doing, action, an action-y type movie joint. So that's Cape Fear. Like I said, anybody in North Carolina, like if you're really trying to work, like especially at the time, we had Iron Man down there. The Conjuring was shot in Wilmington. Under the Dome, Sleepy Hollow, like he was putting kids you come in 2 years later, you are working. So like
That's
by the
tough.
time I would have literally by the time I could have applied to UNC Wilmington, I had 2 internships off the strength of Cape Fear. And I never looked back. I still don't have a bachelor's to this day. Like I had every intent of leaving Central, going to film school, getting some game, coming back, like making mad videos, doing sports, like all of the stuff I'm kind of doing now. Like I was planning, I wanted to come back, finish my bachelor's, and it just never happened. And then the tax incentive change, which you probably know about in Georgia around 2012, 13. North Carolina's lawmakers switched our tax
Oh yeah,
incentive.
yeah, yeah.
So literally the studio that's in Atlanta now, Screen Gems, moved from Wilmington to Atlanta and bought, I think it was an old Six Flags to make a new studio in because Georgia had the 40% incentive. And at the time, Wilmington had, I think it was 25. So Wilmington went from like a 25% incentive, which is basically like, all right, Hollywood studio, you come to my state, you spend, 50 million on a movie, you get 20% of that back as a tax credit. So we're talking like free money essentially for a studio. You know what I mean? So like you think, and I think Georgia came up with a 40% tax credit. So just imagine like making a $10 million movie and knowing you got 4 of that million automatically coming back. So it just took all the work from
Yeah.
North Carolina to Atlanta, and it was the same studio. So it wasn't even like
It was
they
losing
didn't have to
money.
hire nobody new. It was pretty much like I knew people who were just like, yeah, I just got my apartment, I'm gone. So when I came to Gameday, it was I was either gonna move to Atlanta and try to do on set work. I was gonna, move to Charlotte and start my little sports thing, which I did eventually with Gameday, or I was gonna try to move to LA and like do it big, big. And I ended up settling in Charlotte. A lot because my pops was selling the paper, and I had been away from family, and
Yeah.
I was kind of looking to get back
Yeah.
into something, to the family type of thing. So that's how it's happening. It's crazy. Like, yeah, you definitely did your Googles.
For sure.
If you
I gotta
found
more
Mr.
about
Self
himself.
Destruct,
Yeah.
and I know I'm talking, but crazy
You
story
good.
about that. So I also worked at this bar, right? And he came and shot a scene of that movie where like a guy got stabbed, and they threw the body in the dumpster, and they did it in the back of this bar that I was working at in Riceville Beach. Shout out to Loggerheads. And so the next morning, I get a call from the manager, and they're like, we had this old lady. Well, we had this woman. I ain't gonna call her out like that. This woman who used to go through the cans, and she used to come through and take our cans. And she was like the bottle can lady. She found the knife and called the cops. It was like it's a bloody knife in the trash can. So then the cops come. They call the manager. The
That's
manager's like, "Who was working last night?" They call me, right? So I get a call, and I'm like, "Dog, it's dead ass." It's like 9 in the morning, and I get a call, and she's like, "What was going on last night with a knife and the thing?" And I was like, I had to go down there. I had to go down there
yeah.
and be like, "Look, it's swear." And I remember being like, "It's not real blood." Like I was like, the cops. I even said to the police officers, I was like, "Y'all can't." I was like, "Y'all don't know the difference in
Right.
real blood and fake blood. Like it's not dry, like it's wet." But I had to go down there and like tell the cops, like, "Look, we shot this thing. It was a student film. Da 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 da." They gave me a whole earful about permits, this, that, and the third. But yeah, it was crazy. It's funny you mentioned that. That was Mr. Self Destruct. That was that movie. Yeah, had me think I was finna lose my little job like that.
Man, what?
Real quick. Yeah, I was like, come on, bottle lady. You did me dirty. But
Dope
yeah, no, so shout out.
SFX.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
But I gotta ask you back because I watched the little short film of what dogs see, man. So I just gotta
Oh
get
yeah.
what I'm saying. It started out, man. I was like, man, this man done made like it was like a trippy Shroom type of movie, then kind of segue into something. So just kind of give me a background and
So look, more Wilmington. So one of my boys, I ended up hanging out like I told you, Wilmington, same with Tallahassee. I didn't know nobody. I ended up so I worked at this pizza place
hmm
in the kitchen, and I ended up for a little bit like I ended up getting these little bounce around dishwashing gigs where like the pizza place would be like, "Oh, you want our dishwasher? Like he off today, he can go work over here." So I ended up meeting these like surfer dudes from New Jersey off of being in these restaurants, right? And one of them was a creative writing student at UNCW. Shout out my man Jordan Miller, one of my good friends. He's like one of the best chefs in the world right now. He's out in Park City,
tough,
Utah, but that's a whole different other story. He was a creative writing student at the time, and he's from New York, or New Jersey. They got people in New York, so he wrote this short story that was like, basically, it was like, what do you do with a dog when it dies in New York City? Right? Like, there's no
mm.
backyard to bury it in. And so he said that there's this like old wives' tale. It was like a story that he like revamped, where like this girl from Iowa comes to New York to like house sit for her aunt, and the dog dies, and she puts it in a suitcase trying to figure out what to do with it, and then they rob her of the suitcase thinking it's something in the suitcase, but it's really a dead dog. And so he wrote that story, and I was like, yo, that's hilarious. I was like, let's do that for my short film. But like we didn't have New York City. You know what I mean? And so we just flipped it, and I ended up using like, so all the people you saw in that movie worked with me either at a bar or a restaurant
Tough,
down there. And I was just like, you trying to be in my student film? All right, cool.
tough.
Um, and so that was the start of it. And then we like redid the script. And then like for North Carolina, kind of how you saw it. And then once we started shooting it, I mean, that thing probably took me a year plus to shoot, just because I didn't own any of the equipment. It was, we was just out there starting. But yeah, like, and that's when I really started getting into editing. Like that opening sequence of What Dogs See, still something I'm proud of. Just playing with effects, and you know what I mean, doing all that trippy. Like I said, I was on my wave back then.
Nah, for
And
sure.
we made it happen. And that I ended up getting an official selection at a Twin Rivers Film Fest in Asheville. It was an official selection at the North Carolina Student Film Showcase that year, and I think I got into one other festival with it too. And I had like premieres, and like I told you, I was working at bars and restaurants, so I had like shout out my boy Shane, another surfer dude from Wilmington. He went and bought me a red carpet. He was like, "Nah, dude." He was like, "Nah, dude, I'm getting you a
Yeah,
red carpet for your premiere." I was like, "All right, Shane, whatever."
that's love.
Dude shows up. No, dude shows. There was this bar called Red Dogs, and they used to have this like it was a shuttle. No, it wasn't Red Dogs. It was Palm Room, but they had this shuttle that was an old limo, like a super old school, like the movie Casino limo. So Shane pulls up to my little premiere. Of course, he tells me this like months in advance. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. He pulled up in the Palm Room limo, popped the door open, like rolls the carpet out right on the street. I'm like, oh, he's done it. I was like, he pulled up with the carpet. So I ended up taking that red carpet, and I had premieres at like mad bars in Wilmington. It was love. Like my invited my family down. Like people didn't know what I didn't know what to expect. You know what I mean? Because I was like, nah, I made a movie, and they were like, oh, okay, like whatever. And people came down, and I actually like packed out. Like it was probably, and I got pictures. If you go on my Facebook to 2010,
Yeah,
you'll see it was right around this time. It was in
I
February,
tapped in.
but you'll see pictures of the premiere. It was probably like 100 people in there. Like it was straight, and like again, all of that just off of like film school, like not know, I ain't really know nobody. You know what I mean? And again, shout out to my pops for having me prepared to like be in situations with people who don't necessarily look like me. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I said, coming from high school to Central, like that was so familiar that like I really needed to shake a little bit of that. Going to Wilmington and just being around, they were just
hmm
me. You know what I mean? Like even just like working in a you know what I mean? Just like washing dishes. You know what I mean? Like that was the craziest thing. Like I met so many people who I'm still cool with. Like, the Mexican homeboys. Like, you know what I mean? Like the white dudes who work in restaurants. Like, you know what I mean? Like the old school black dudes who are chefs but are considered cooks because they just hadn't taken their thing out of whatever restaurant they work at. You know what I mean?
Right,
Currently,
right, right.
you know what I mean? Like a bunch of different like types of people. You know what I mean? And like that's really what the film making films is. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, you look at a movie, it's like it's 100 people's baby. It's the director's baby, it's the writer's baby, it's the lead actor's baby, it's the guy, the electrician who made sure y'all had lights, it's his baby too. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? And like kind of like we've been talking about, just that network of community and like, you know what I mean? That film thing comes to in the HBCU thing, it's all very similar just in terms of like, you know what I mean, meeting people who are on the same energy with you and just press and go. Um, so nah, that's crazy. You went deep, but nah, what dogs see, man, that was my student film for
Nah,
sure.
it was dope. I liked it. I liked it. You know what I'm saying? Beginning had me thrown off, but like, you know what I'm saying, the way it, you know what I'm saying, it definitely had like some little cliffhangers, like change, like fit, change emotion. So I give you props, brother.
Look, I tried. I tried. Thank. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I tried, and then because I kind of got off on a tangent, like it started in one place and then it ended somewhere else. You know what I mean? And I kind of took like, you know,
Because the dog came back to life
I'm
at the end. I'm like, what's going on?
yeah, and that was just because I didn't have an ending, and I was like, okay,
Ah,
this would be funny because it had gone because it was supposed to be funnier, and then like as I'm actually making it, I'm like, all right, this is dark. This is kind of dark. It's kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like I kind of recognized it, so I was like, all right, well, because at the end of the actual script,
uh,
um, was when he just got robbed. He like the short story is like all this stuff builds up, and it's like she finally found because in New York you have to call what's called a pet incinerator. It's like an entire business industry of
mm-hmm.
people in New York who like I can't think of the word right now who cremate. That's the word I'm looking
Dogs.
for. Cremate pets for you because there's no yard. You can't just go out back and dig a hole and bury it. So it ended with her like figuring out that this exists, that she was on the train on her way to the pet incinerator. She talked to some people and they rob her they actually like leave her purse with the money and take the dog because they think it's more valuable type of thing. Um, and so yeah, I flipped it. I was like, nah, let's make the dog come back alive. I forget how we wagged the tail. We did something where we had the little tail wag
It was
like
an
a
actual
string or
dog in there.
something.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely not. No, no, I couldn't do that. But I had to find the house that we shot it in
yeah,
was the assistant manager at the bar. Her name was
tough,
Angela, and she let us use her house. And she
tough.
had these huskies. And so I had to find a fake dog that looked like her dog. And you know, it's super weird. That's her husband who like uh everybody they basically made me put him in the high heels. I know people are going to be watching this and they're like, "What? You got Buddy in high heels?" But it was like it was this joke. It was this running joke, and they were like, again, speaks to like the script changes. They were like, "You've got to put Mike in the heels." So I was like, "All right, we can do it." And he was supposed to be the weird neighbor. Again, something we added to try to be funny
Yeah.
in a movie where I am running over a live dog with a car.
No,
You know,
so how did you like the
yeah.
camera angle of the dog? Like, what did you do? How did you kind of, you know what I'm saying? How'd you put that together? What I'm trying to say. Did you like use like a lower tripod,
Like
handheld?
the POV shots.
Yeah, for the of the dog.
Most
I
of them
can't
were
remember.
probably handheld. And so Cape Fear had this crane at the time that you could check out, which another, I mean, again, like a community college that has a crane, a literal crane that you and you find people to put it up and work it. Y'all could just take the crane and go. You know what I mean? Like that's crazy. But I know some of them we did on the little crane, and I just kept it like low and followed flat like that. But I
Hmm.
mean, just having fun with it. Most of them were probably handheld where I was just being the dog. You know what I mean? I would get to the dog level. But I mean, no, filmmaking, having fun. Like the one shot, my favorite shot, the one where where he's like digging the hole and it starts under the dirt.
Yep, yep.
So I went to Lowe's and got plexiglass and two
Hmm.
little benches and put the camera up under the plexiglass and had him stand on the ladder with a shovel, dig, popped it out.
Tough.
Like having fun with it. Stuff I really want to get back to. Like like I love sports and the documentary stuff has been dope, but like I really want to get back to the narrative, and kind of telling like some of these stories from Winston and growing up in sports and all of that stuff. So that's really, look, you might have just gave me the spark. I need to get back at it. I'm over
Hey,
here like
no, that was a
thinking about some of
good
these
question, bro.
shots. I don't
When
get to do that. I watch what Jackson State football is doing a lot now. And man, I get so jealous because they get to be in that mode where like I saw their behind the scenes of their schedule reveal. And they got to play with toys. They had the big rail, the speed rail up. They had the light spinning over Buddy's head. I was like, oh, I miss doing that. Um, so hopefully we can get back to some of that with HBCU game day. But with us being we're not with the team, so it
got a
gets
little
a little
limited,
tough because we're a news organization, right? And like I
right?
can't I can't blame a team for me being like, hey, I'm with HBCU game day. Can I come in here and just start filming stuff? You know what I mean? They don't know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
we gonna they don't know what we're gonna use it for. Somebody says the wrong thing in the locker room, and it's like breaking news on HBCU game day. Such and such said this in the locker room, and it's like we would never do that, but like I get it. You know what I mean? To the point
yeah,
where like so that's why like the project with Smith, being able to actually have that access this year
right.
with brick by brick was so crazy to me. And every time I see somebody from Smith, they're like, "Thank you, man, thank you." I'm like, "Dog, thank y'all," because like I can't tell you how many locker room, you know what I mean? How many locker rooms I done tried to be in, just to get that extra level of
Hmm.
content that we don't normally get, as a news organization.
So
So.
like FAMU, like you just said, dang, Jackson, even NC, they haven't been open to just let y'all come and do y'all thing like that.
Uh, I mean, they are, but it's like it's a circumstance. So, like, you take Jackson, like, when Coach Prime was there, we had great access to Jackson, but we all live on the East Coast, so it's
Right,
like, like the juice has to be worth the squeeze for a lot of that stuff, and it's like,
right,
for us as a small business,
right.
flying, driving three people to a place, putting them up in a hotel to shoot this project that the streets are gonna love. You know what I
Man,
mean?
it was
Sometimes
federal.
the streets will love it, but like, will you get a return on
Our
what you
investment.
broke out? You know what I mean? And
Gotcha.
it's just a different thing. That's why like I love where the like media team thing is for HBCU because that's marketing, right? Like that's like you know that's advertising for the university. It also pays back, right? Like every university is going to advertise, you know what I mean? But when you put money into a media team, you're paying for advertising that can
Hmm.
also generate revenue. It's like, you know what I mean? It's a wonderful little circle. And that's why, like, you look at what FAMU's doing with Rattler Plus. Like, go look at how many teams, I think Jackson had like highlights that were sponsored by a local business. You know what I mean? Like from the school perspective, like that's the game. And like look at like Clemson. Like Clemson football was really the first school who was like on it. 20, like what was that, 14, 15, 16. They were really one of the first schools that had like hype videos and like a whole team that was just shooting the football team. And the guy who started that, he's actually at the Tennessee Titans right now. But I just look at that and like that was the blueprint, and the fact that HBCUs are there at a level that like Jackson and FAMU are doing it, and like Southern, like they've had what's my
Yeah.
man's name who does the band stuff? Garrett Edge, I think he goes by. Like he been dope for years. You know what I mean? Like the fact that you have these high level guys doing it at HBCUs when they could go elsewhere. You know what I mean? And that kind of ties back into it. Like there was a time when people who had that skill set, like not only was the HBCU not hiring them, but they might not have took it because they were like, "What school is that? Who is that? Oh, that's not gonna, that's
Right.
not where I need to be in my career." And now that we have guys who are like high level talent, being like, "Nah," like you know what I mean? Like Buddy from Jackson, like he's intentionally at Jackson. I don't know him well enough to say he's turning down. I ain't saying all of that. But what I
Right.
am saying, I am confident in saying that like he's at Jackson because he wants to be at Jackson. He wants to turn them up in the way that he can with his craft. And I'm like, that's it. That's for me, like you don't got to tell me nothing else. You know what I mean? Like the dudes at FAMU, like Josh, like Padilla, like good and well, Josh Padilla probably has jobs at other schools doing a similar thing. It's not FAMU. I don't know his background, but it might be a school that's closer to his community that he, you know what I mean. But he's like, nah, FAMU is like I like this. You know what I mean? And the fact that we have that at HBCUs is dope. And like, hopefully, we just keep going in a way to, like I said, where everybody has it. And then it's like two, three people fighting for the, you know what I mean? Imagine having three dudes who are that nice, all wanting the position at that
Hmm.
school. Like, then you got an industry, then you got economy, you know what I mean? Like, in and of its own self, you know? So, nah, that's why I love seeing it. So, shout out to Alabama A&M. Jordan, his last name is Brantley. Brandon, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it, but like he's super dope. Morgan State's creative team is crazy. Like I be looking at they did something today, and I'm just like, man, like it be making me be like, dog, I'm really about to go make what dogs see too. Like they, you know what I mean? There's a part of it that's like the game is in good hands. You know what I mean
Yeah.
right now. So I couldn't be any happier about that.
So from your perspective, what goes into making a good doc or just making good content?
Hmm. Well, I'll go from the doc from a it's I mean it's really like making sure to tell a story within making something look good. Like, you know, there's you want to make sure that like you have some story. And a lot of times it's like you start at a place, just like I was saying about the film. Like I'll go to a game and be like, "Ooh, I want to do this." And by the time I shoot it, it's something totally different. But like you kind of have to have that blueprint to start so that you know to go away from it. But like
Hmm.
just building that story out and like not being afraid to like, you know, tell like even if you're shooting a game, right? Like there's always a story within the game, the back and forth within the game, you know, like
Right.
picking out that one little part and then expounding on it. And then, you know, you let the cool stuff be the cool stuff. Like I'll never forget like for basketball, I used to do the layup line dunk contest, right? Like, and of course, that's not really a story. That's like,
Right.
but you know, you can piece that, you know, and I used to use that as like a scene, right? I'd be like, all right, so boom, this game like was really about the last half of the second half, but I'm gonna set it up with an intro. I'm gonna bring the tempo down and kind of like take you away from this story by getting these layup line dunks in. And then I'm at the end, I'm gonna be like, now that we got them dunks off, let's get into it. You know what I mean? Like little things of kind of like making sure you take people like from here to there, and then to where you're actually going, as
Comfortable.
opposed to just like, you know, putting
Jarring.
shots to music. And it's kind of like, you know, you develop in your career. It's like when you're shooting, it's like the first thing you really do is like you just put your best shots to music, right? And the story is look at all these good shots I got and how fire this song is, right? Like that's the story. But as you go, that story starts to like, and then you know it starts to like grow and mature, and then you're like, okay, now I found what I do. Like I talk about Josh, like Josh doesn't do anything like I do, but I can tell that like he looked at what I did and was like, oh yeah, I would do that like this. Like same with Tolly, right? Like watch my videos and you watch Tolly's videos. You're not gonna look at him and be like, oh, he's trying to be like Tolly. But like when I started, like I was just really trying to copy what he did to get the video done in time to get it up. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Hmm.
because you didn't have that skill. So like telling the story, you know, in my opinion, is like, you know, it becomes storytelling the better and more you get with your craft. You'll tell a story, you won't even realize you're doing it. Like with some of the stuff you did, like even with the mic'd up, like you might have thought like, oh, I was just putting the best parts together, but like you're at a skill set level now to where like I watched it and I was like, okay, and I noticed he grouped that, he grouped this. I think I even regrouped it. No, I took two and made it one. I think you
Yeah.
sent me two, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, this is the same story. And so I just like blah 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 made them one. You know what I mean? Like I
Hmm.
could see what you were doing by watching it. You know what I mean? And that's something where like I bet you probably didn't even, you know what I mean? You probably just made the video like, nah,
Right.
I threw it
I just
together. But you're, you know what I mean? You're at a point in your work where like you know what I mean? Like you're
yeah, it's
taking it
catching
to
up.
that next
Yeah.
level anyway. Yeah. So
So at what point did you kind of like find your own style from kind of going from what Ty was doing, kind of like, ah, this is my style. You know what I'm saying I'm sure you didn't really like notice it, but at
dog,
what
if
point?
I'm being honest, 2017
Yeah.
Bowie versus Virginia State.
Hmm.
And it's crazy that I can put a package on it, but like If you go look at that video, it was Trenton Cannon from Virginia State who played in the league, Amir Hall, who I was telling you about, probably the best HBCU quarterback who didn't make the league from Bowie. Um, that game was crazy, dog. Like it was such a good game. It was high scoring. Like the vibe was crazy. Like dog, like when I drove in to the parking lot, I went and parked, and they were like, the parking is $5, but it's 10 if you want a turkey leg. And I was like, oh, bet. You know, I was like, okay, this is how VSU get down. Like, and they like it wasn't no crazy. They were just like, nah, like you want the leg or not. Like, this is how we do. So, you know,
Tough.
I parked, I go, like it was freezing cold. You'll see if you go look at the video, like this dude I called him the Millie Rock King. Like he was taking his shirt off, Millie rocking all types of crazy.
On any
And the game
block.
was good. And I just remember like I drove home and I was like, man, that was really good. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. Like, I had no idea. And then when I finished it, like I watched it probably like 5 times before I uploaded it. And like I had mad jokes. Like I was like, he hit the sideline and chucked the deuces like Chris Brown in 2010. You know, like I was just like coming like it was the first video where I was like, I had jokes. I had, you know what I mean? I had the pregame, I had the Millie Rock guy, I had my intro, I had the Millie Rock guy, I had a little bit of this, came back in with the bands, you know what I mean? And I was like, it became its own thing. And that's when I started like putting my name on stuff. Like, I don't know how it's received. Like when I do the Wali Pitt flick thing, like I'm a big Spike Lee guy, but like when I put my name on something, it's not because I think it's so great. It's that like
You
I'm
believe
proud
in
of
it.
it. You know what I mean? I'm like, nah, I put my name like I want like when you write, you know, you sign your name on the paper, like I'm turning this in, like Wally,
Yeah.
you know, and like I think that was one of the first ones where I was like, nah, I'm putting my name on this. Like, you know, and that game really like especially that highlight style
Right.
that I was doing for a minute, like that's where all of that started. Was that daggone Bowie, Virginia State game.
All right, so just talk a little bit about the process. You know, obviously when you're starting out, you like you said, you don't really like your voice, you don't really like the product you're putting out, but you know it's a process, you know it's a grind. So how do you kind of fight through those times to get to where you're at now?
From game day, it was because the video had to be done.
True,
I
true.
mean, you know what I mean? Like, it was just the like, you know, and especially when I started, because when I started, I didn't partner with the business. I partnered with them on this one specific Food Lion video deal, and like we had to deliver like 10 million impressions to them for us to get paid at the end of the year. So like a lot of it was like it was work. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't, and me being a filmmaker, like I told you, I took a year plus with What Dogs See. Like I would shoot a music video, then I take it and go in my little dark lab like I'm in now, and I'm making it and perfecting it and doing all this stuff, and it takes me forever to do it. And like I just couldn't do that with game day. It was like, bro, the game is on Saturday. Like
Right.
by Monday evening, it's too late. And
So you
that
getting
was
out same day?
2016. I mean, I liked when I was doing the highlight when we really had our highlight thing kicking. Tolly can shoot a video and cut it in the parking lot and be done by midnight. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, he's just a newsman. He's just a straight up and down newsman. Like he can do that. For me, 24. I like to say 24 hours after the game ended. I like to have my package out. So you know, if it was a 4 o'clock game probably going to end at about 7. By 7 that next day, I wanted to be done.
So you pulling
Um,
out nighters.
yeah, that's how we were doing it. And honestly, it's why well, that and the game has changed to where most people want that on IG now. So
Right.
it's a little easier to make it in real form. But now, like 2016, 17, 18, 19, like when we
Whole
were doing
thing.
that, like yeah, the whole thing. And then like, there's a guy on YouTube. There's plenty of them now, but his name was Alex Hines, and he used to post the whole game. So I used to be like, I at least got to get it up close to when he posts the game, because if he sorry, look, that was my pops calling me right now.
You good.
But because if he posts the game before my highlight, the views would go there instead of here. So I was like, all right, like I gotta at least get on his timeline from when he posted. But yeah, and so a lot of it was just having to do it and just being like, all right, well, there it is. Like one time I called Virginia State the Spartans, they the Trojans. I called them the Spartans through the whole video. Had to go back and check. You know what I mean? Like little stuff like that. Like I think that's the one thing people probably missed was like this is one person doing a lot of this stuff. And
Right.
like, yeah, I get to a game, at least for me, for football, you know, I like to be set up and shooting with an hour and a half before kickoff. That's when you get all that nice B-roll, all
Hmm.
your good huddles before the DJ comes in, and like you can't really use any of the sound from the huddles because the music is loud. So I mean, you're talking like, you know, a 2 hour drive to the game, an hour to park. I'm
Man.
there shooting for 90 minutes before kickoff, shoot the whole game, the turn up after the game, a little post game interview, drive the 2 hours back home.
It's
You know what I
on the
mean?
clock.
Like go to sleep, wake up, pull your footage, pick a song, write a voiceover, record a voiceover, put the voiceover down, trim out all the little parts. You know what I mean? Like it was a whole thing. You know what I mean? It's like it's probably why I'm gray. I'm getting big and gray now. Like it was, you know what I mean? Like it's not an easy thing to do. And that's where it came from was just, not wanting to like be the weak link. You know what I mean? Especially at first, like, and Steve does videos too, and Steve's a phone video guy. So
Right.
like Steve, like
Instant.
one of his biggest things he does is like he's great at capturing that moment that everybody's gonna want to see. Right? He's kind of like the opposite with me. Like it don't need to be perfect and beautiful. Like for him, he's like he got that moment, and it's that moment that people want to see. For me, I'm kind of like I got that moment and like I want to present it to you in a way. You know what I mean? Like, and so, we had Steve doing that. Tolly is a consummate pro at the time. He chopping videos up in the parking lot, and I'm taking it. I'm taking it home trying to be freaking Spike Lee. You know what I mean? Like it just wasn't working. So like I just had
Yeah.
to start. Just had to go.
That's
You
a
know.
fact. I feel that, man. When I was doing the game highlights, at the beginning, if you watch the high school highlights, they got the cinematic pregame, like you're talking about, then the highlights.
Hmm.
And I'd be like, man, a day or two. So I still try to do it because it's still like the standard because, these computers are so fast. Right? If you get like a whole 30 minute chopper, you get it export in 10 minutes. Now it's taking like
Exactly.
3, 4, sometimes 16 hours to export my
Mm.
footage. So, you know what I'm saying? So I definitely get it.
Look, every upgrade comes with a headache. That's the one thing I've learned is like you want that new camera, like it's gonna cause you some problems in editing. You want that new computer, well, you know what I mean? Like then you're
Facts.
gonna have to deal with how long it's gonna take. It's just the you
Just
know,
the name of the game.
name of the game, yeah.
For sure, but I got just a few more questions. And I'm gonna let you go, man. You had a quote
Hey,
that you
good.
put out, man, about just HBCU game that y'all wanted to give some the vision. You said Stephen was creating some really engaging content in the blog and social media spaces, and we know that the step we want to get to is to create an enterprise website that could one day stand side by side with ESPN and Bleacher Report. Do you feel like that's coming to fruition for HBCU Game Day?
Yes, I do, honestly, especially from the website side of it. I definitely do. So I think we're at the point now where like it was that, and we need to revamp it to keep up again with them. Because the website, I didn't have any formal website training. I decided to take it on for game day. I went and got a quote for somebody to make it. It was 10 grand. My wife brought me this thing. She said there's a coding boot camp in Charlotte. It costs $7,000. I said 7,000 to learn how to make it myself is cheaper than paying somebody 10 grand to do it once. So I went to the coding boot camp. That was 20 to 17.
Hmm.
At UNC Charlotte. Another weird academic thing. Like, take it from me, I was not a scholastic guy. Like, you know, I, smart, whatever. You can judge that later. But in terms of like the doing school, me and school did not get along like at all. But like that Cape Fear thing, the Cape Fear film program, and this coding boot camp are like alternative kind of schooling things that like somebody like me really latched onto. And like that coding boot camp is like, I mean, it's a boot camp. Like I knew nothing about computers, how to code, whatever. And like they basically teach you how to think like a computer in a way in terms of how to make stuff. So like anybody looking to like get into web development, find you one of them coding boot camps. Like especially if you're looking for another job. Now for me, I wasn't looking for a job, right? I was looking to do something for my business. But like the career services they had, like you looking for a job to step up, like go to a coding boot camp and like actually do what they tell you to do. Like follow the steps, don't BS it. Like they'll have you working. like for real. And so I went to one of those and like I ended up making what is our current WordPress website while I was still in the class because I wanted to use the teachers as resources. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like while I still had them. Um,
That's the
so I
ingenious
was
right there.
basically, yeah, so I was in between, like I was doing the work that they were having us do because it was a lot of like, they give you instructions, show you how to do it, then you do a group project and then y'all make something. So I was making sure not to, be the be the a-hole in the group project who's like worried about his own website. You know what
Right.
I mean? But like in those in between times, I would come in and like when everybody else was doing career services, I would come in and like go to the teacher guy and be like, hey, like, how do I how do I put this here? How do I change the font for this? And it was WordPress, so it was super easy for them. And so we ended up making it, and then I figured out how to get Google Ads in. And so that's when we started making money just by, people coming to our site, which was like a game changer, at the time, because everything else, like I said, was like you have to find a deal. You got to like get a Food Line deal, and like even at YouTube wasn't monetized at the time either that I not that I can think of. 2017, if it was, it wasn't like as widely used as it is now. So like us being able to make money off of the Google ads being in the stories just by people looking at them was like a game changer because now it's like, all right, well, shoot, all we need is our phone, right? Like to be able to make a little piece of change. And then
Right.
once our traffic got respectable, we learned how to use SEO, which is like search engine optimization, which is really what puts you on par with the ESPNs. Is like you got to have your SEO right, and it's basically like Google wants things a certain way, and if you have them a certain way, they're gonna lift you up and say, "Hey, look at this." Whenever someone comes to look for the thing that you're trying to present, right?
Right.
So it's like if you got your Google ducks in a row and you write a story about FAMU and people are searching FAMU, well, your story is going to be up there at the top. And then, now with the way phones are, they have all of these you know, like your news app, right? Like any news app is really just an algorithm that's saying, hey, search, bring me Google result. You go into your phone, you say, all right, news thing, I like the Carolina Panthers. I'm into local politics and nature. You know what I mean? And it algorithms that up to say, all right, well, here are the stories that I've used that are reliable from Google, present them to you. So there's times where like, the story like Rick Ross, his son signed at Bethune-Cookman, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's something where like we can write a story about that and we can have our ducks in a row. Well, that can go and it can have a whole life of its own. It can do nothing on our social media, right? People can they can scan right by it. But if our SEO is right, well, then all of these news apps, News Break and Breaking News, and all of the ones who use the algorithm, it goes and has this whole other life over there, which is dope to us because that's how we were trying to connect the dots, right? Like you said, like being on par with ESPN, like we want our, you know what I mean? Like if a story happens about an HBCU, like it shouldn't just be ESPN up there on Google. It should be us. And a
Right.
lot of times, we can be like, we can blame it on the big day, right? Like, well, they don't do this and they not doing this for HBCU game day. Why our thing ain't up on Google? And like, really, you just got to go in and look, like, figure it out. Like I tell people about it's like the PPP loans. Like people get mad that they didn't have to repay. Certain people didn't repay PPP loans or whatever, but it's like that was paperwork. Like if you filled out the proper paperwork and you weren't lying, if you weren't
Right.
lying and you filled the paperwork out and you turned it in time, the loan turned to a grant. Like that was the whole thing. You know what I mean? So it's like if you do the work, sometimes you end up there because computers are running stuff. The big they is a machine now. You know what I mean? Mostly. So like that's how we got in there. And a lot of people still like, man, I saw your stuff here, there, and everywhere. And we're like, it's like it looks cool, but we're like, I don't know, we just did the SEO for the article and went away and looked up, and it's wherever else it is. So from a web standpoint, those are the two things. And Steve knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, and Tolly is really on the website. Tolly's the one who is our deal brokers. So, now, thanks to Tolly, we have one of the best ad partners that you can have. Basically the ad partner that every black web thing has. Like, go look at, a lot of sites, you notice they have the same ads in the same way in the same places. That's
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, you've reached the person who turns the ads on and says, all right, you don't have to do the Google ads on your own anymore.
We got you.
Here's a ad partnership, and we're gonna make you a part of the whatever. That's just how the game is now. So like Tolly brokered those deals. I built the infrastructure, and Steve does what Steve does, which is write the content that people want to see and want to talk about. And you know, for a long time, really, I mean, up until now, that's really how we were operating. And now, I think we're kind of in a place where we're like, dang, like we already have to adapt because the sports media is crazy now. Like, it's an entirely different, you know what I mean? Like, we used to complain about people not reading headlines. Well, now, like, there's no need for an article. Most of the stuff is on a meme or a one sheet graphic.
Right.
You get that, you've shared that. There's no need to click anything else. What you're going to click is you're going to watch Arvin Bacon show. You know what I mean? You're going to go to YouTube or wherever, and you're going to watch a show from somebody that you trust and like to listen to, who you think is kind of unattached from the establishment. You know what I mean? And so, like, maybe the only bad part of that is, like, with us doing all of that, we do kind of get connected to the establishment some, and we are kind of behind in the new media game. I feel like we were like the end of the old media. We were like one of the last old media businesses to really come out, pop, and have a little wave. You know what I mean? And now for us, what's important is not getting too stuck in that and adapting. And like for me, it's hard. Like, you know what I mean? I like making my Wali Pitt flicks. I like them to look, you know what I mean? Like, for me, especially if it's not like a direct thing. Like, now somebody called me, was like, hey, we want to make this doc. We want it to be this way. Like, then I put on my film industry cap, and it's a whole nother ball game. But when we talk about, I just go out with my camera and shoot a thing that I'm happy with, like, I'm gonna do that in a certain way, and it's not always gonna be the way that is going to
Right.
generate the most attention. You know what I mean? Because I'm not making it to generate the most attention. I'm making it to tell you a specific story
Yeah.
about something I think is important. So like, if there's one thing that we are doing and need to do, is like, we got to find our space in that new media. And that's where Simone comes in. Like, Simone is, like, I'm surprised she's still with us. You know what I mean? Like, Josh too. Like, I forgot, I was telling somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, I'm just waiting on them to like call and be like, yo, like, sorry, I'm with the Falcons now. Or, you know what I mean? Like, because they're that good at what they do, and they're that much like on the cutting edge of it. So
Right.
that's kind of, yeah, I think we did. I think we got there. And right when we got there, the whole game changed. You know
Well, I
what I
think,
mean? And like,
yeah, I think,
nah, you
it's
good.
just, yeah, I'm saying from just for being a young black man, I'm saying, giving perspective, obviously we look at y'all like, yeah, I'm saying, y'all the OGs, y'all was doing this thing big, y'all definitely had some inspiration and influence on the game now, and inspired us. So we look at y'all like, man, because it's hard out here, saying, to make it for the
Mm-hmm.
Falcons, saying, to make it for the Hawks, or make it for the big media. They're gonna choose, saying, their cousin or somebody's friend that they know over us any day of the week. So as a worker with y'all, it's kind of like y'all giving us on-job training for something real, and it's HBCU sports. So why not? And in terms of the documentary thing, man, take your time. I think the documentary, I don't think it's gonna ever go out of style. If you know a kid Nick in the cut, he's
Mm-hmm.
he does a lot with the players. That could be a different avenue. I know it's different just doing the player, different team, that's different type of access, different type of life and into. So I don't think
And that's what I'm saying though. That's where, like, I need to fix. That's where I have some old thinking when it comes to even the way that I do documentaries.
yeah,
Like those, and that's how it should be, right? Like, I started in 2016. I'm the last one to come in game day, though. That's almost a decade ago. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't realize how old I was in the game. Whereas, you know what I mean? At this point, like, that's a
right,
long time. Like, that's 8 seasons of every week with with a random documentary thrown in there. So like, yeah, and as a creative, like, that's always gonna happen. And like, if you ever get too fixed in that mode to where, like, you got so much butter that you just can't. Hey, I'm just so nice. Like it's coming for you. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like everything changes and adapts, and like if you're not adapting with it and you're too in your own space, you're gonna get left behind. And like I'm a big in my own space guy. So like I'm wrestling with the demons now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even just making sure that I do social media stuff before I sit back and do the whole project. Like that was hard for me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm supposed to just give y'all some of this. Like, you know what I mean? Just like off the top. Nah, I've been taking my footage home. Like, you know what I mean? That was hard for me to be like, all right, let me just put something together right now and get it out ASAP. So I mean, like that's and that's the thing. And like I don't I'm like Lil Wayne a little bit where it's like I don't really like watching
Other people's.
the stuff that I do. Like I like
Oh,
watching it like in a certain regard, but it's like I'm not just kicked back like watching other HBC. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to have no
influence.
influences. You know what I mean? Like, and most of the time, like I'm working, like I'm shooting, I'm cutting it, and then like by the time I upload something, I'm on to the next thing. Like the wrestling thing I did today, which is like probably one of my favorite projects ever that I've ever done. Like I hit export and then I hit dude, and like my head right now, I'm thinking about the next show that I'm gonna shoot in 3 weeks and what I'm gonna do with that. And you know what I mean? And so like I have a bad habit of when I hit upload, being
Moving
done
on.
with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And moving on to the next. And so like, that's one piece of advice I can give to creators. Like sometimes just like stop and try to be realistic about where you are, what you're doing, and don't be afraid to adapt and like, you know, move. They'll tell you, ask somebody from Game Day, I'm hard headed. Like they asked, I remember Tali asked me one time, he was like, man, at the time, like the band videos were going crazy. He was like, dude, he was like, just stop shooting for one song, take your phone out, record the band, and upload it. He's like, that's gonna do money. And I was like, I didn't come here to make 1 minute phone video. You know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
that's where my head was. You know what I mean? I was like, nah, that ain't it. But like, as I matured and got older, it's like, nah, you kind of, especially these days, you got to do the stuff that's going. You got to
Catch
do the
fire.
stuff that's going to allow you to do the stuff that you want to do.
Yeah.
Until the stuff that you want to do is like, till you have an audience to where that's all that you have to do. And so me personally, I was real hard headed with that. I'm making movies, guys. You know what I mean? And it's like, nah, bro, humble yourself. Take this here, go this little slice of pie, a humble pie, like eat it and go make that IG reel. You know what I mean? So like, that's my advice to it. Is like, man, the game gonna change, and
That's real.
with or without you. You
That's
know?
that's facts. I feel like it's changing ever so fast for these. That like 2 3 years it could be different. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, I mean it is, and especially look. I look at that COVID period. That was like
transition.
I said, that's a different time. I feel like time moving faster. Like, you know what I mean? Like that added some stuff onto it. So, but we coming. We got some cool stuff coming, and like
No
I said,
doubt.
I'm trying to push the young people out, and that's why like you'll never hear us be like upset that somebody else is watching something else over us. It's like that. Like you said, you read our mission statement. Like part of the point was to build a place where we're more than just us. Like we wanted to connect our communities, and so that everybody had the space. So we love it. Like we're not mad at the new media. Look, I might get my thing up, and I might drop a little show. I might have to have you on my show
Nah, for
in a
real, man.
little bit. Just being, because you have to be willing. Like I have to be willing to do
Hmm.
what it takes. You know what I mean? And that might be firing up a podcast, or getting a nice new iPhone
Nah,
and
man.
attaching it to my camera and making sure I'm getting phones. You know what I mean? It's like it's either that or do something else.
Yeah,
For real.
facts. You got the access to big time guests, brother. You know what I'm saying? But just Steve, Tolly, man. You know what I'm saying? What do they mean to you?
Man, those are my brothers. Those are my, like, I call them my comrades, and not on no socialism stuff. I want big brother. But it's like we are bonded through the work. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, we're friends. Like, we're definitely cool. Like, don't get that part twisted. But like, like the glue is that we genuinely all wanted to take what we did and use it to turn up HBCUs and HBCU sports because we thought they deserved it. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, hey, I've got a great business idea. We can make a lot of money being the only people that cover HBCUs in this way. Like that was never it. You know, it was always like Steve was like, nah, I'm a journalist. I went to Winston-Salem State. I love Winston-Salem State. I want to, you know, really what he does is present presents things for other schools in the same light of the way he loves his school. And that's why it attaches so much, is because like he approaches it that same love he has for Winston, he knows you have for your school, and he can get that out of you by writing. You know what I mean? Like Tolly the same way, you know, with news. Like I said, Tolly was on Winston-Salem State Jazz Radio. Like people from Winston, you know, like have a reverence for Tolly. And we ain't, you know, it ain't my place to really get into, but I will say this is that like people from Winston-Salem of a certain era and age have a reverence for Tolly no matter what happened. Because he was on 90.5 or whatever the jazz station was. Like early, you'd hear him on the jazz station. Then you go home and watch him on the news. Then Friday come up, he's at the game. You know what I mean? Like he's made, and at a time where like you couldn't do both as a black man. Like you couldn't be like Stuart Scott, who's also from Winston. Let me preface that Stuart Scott is from Winston. So like Tolly was our Stuart Scott after Stuart Scott went big. And Stuart Scott was the first one to be, you know, he had the news personality, but he also brought that black flavor with it that you couldn't do. And it was like you had to disguise it. Like nowadays, like you couldn't have Shannon Sharp on the news. I love Shay Shay, but it's, you know what I mean? Like now you can carry yourself in a much more authentic way and be on TV. Like you couldn't do that back then. And like dudes like Tolly and Bryant Gumbel and Stuart Scott made their bones like being the upstanding news dude and slipping the culture in a way that like was so fly that like the news director wasn't even like, whoa, buddy. You know, like, I mean, just imagine like the first time Stuart Scott dropped God, why I can't think of his like a booyah. You know what I mean? Like somebody was probably like, hey, Stu, like you can't be doing that on TV. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like Tolly's been doing that forever. And for him to go through everything that he went through and come out and still be on some like, nah, I'm trying to like do this for my community. Like that's the, you know, like that's the respect that he gained in his career. Like that's why he's able to do the things that he does today. So I mean, like, you know, I have a deep reverence for Tolly. Steve is my guy. You know, I met Steve through this. Me and Steve go to games together. We've roomed together. Like Steve is like a brother to me. We're like super close in age. You know what I mean? We've argued. Like Steve is like my brother. You know what I mean? Like for real. But like Tolly is like, you know, he more like my uncle. You know what I mean? Because I'm connected through my pops.
Right.
But it's like, man, anybody from Winston, like, well, if they my age, they lying if they didn't tell you about how much we love Tolly Carr on the billboards. You know what I mean? Like when you would do like little stuff, like when you do a book report in class,
Tolly Carr.
be like, oh, put your Tolly Carr on it. Like that was like a thing. You know what I mean? In
That's
Winston,
crazy.
like, and he doesn't even understand it. You know, I tell him this stuff and he kind of laughs it off, but it's like, as a young black kid, like we had that guy in our city who was like, who did that, and like, not everybody had that. You know what I mean? Like, so no, you know, those are my guys.
Nah, it's tough. Last two questions, bro. This is a big one, man. It's you see, I mean, you probably shoot with a Sony, don't you, or some type
Oh
of.
yeah,
So
yep,
just
Sony gang.
speak to the importance of having, because I shoot Canon M50, nothing, you know what I'm saying, not on the buttery type of film, but just to speak to the importance of having a great quality camera, to having like just a baseline, come and get you over the hump. You know what I'm saying? What does it do for the production? What does it do
Man,
for the
I've had almost every kind of camera. I started on HDV cassette, the little mini cassettes that did HD. And I look at cameras. Cameras are like tools, right? Like the best screwdriver in the world can't do a better job than the most basic hammer because some jobs you need a hammer for. You know what I mean? Like the most expensive screwdriver in the world ain't gonna hammer a nail better than a regular old hammer. So sometimes you need a hammer. You know what I mean? Like, so I consider them to be tools. And like we were talking about jumping, like I'm not a big fan of like, hey, gotta get the highest, the best of the best of the best. Like number one, I like room to grow.
Right.
Like I don't never want to get to a point where like I make a video and like I have the best camera, the best audio, the best light, the best thing, and it's like, oh well, I'm done. It's perfect. You know what I mean? Like you always want somewhere to go and somewhere to grow. But like my advice is figure out what you're doing and get the best tool for that job. Like I'm Sony, I love Sony, but mainly because I understand the menus and how they work. And so it's not confusion. You know what I mean? Like I'm never out at a game like fumbling through the menu because I bought a new red and I don't know how to use it. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, it's find the best tool for the job. And step one of that is evaluating what the job actually is. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, if you're shooting sports, like make sure you get you a camera that shoots sports well. It doesn't have, you know what I mean? Like I look at like my favorite camera is the Sony FX3, right? I actually have a Sony FX6, which is considered a better camera. It's double in price, right? Um, some of the people I work with, they're actually like, bro, you're bugging. Like, why don't you bring the FX6 out? And I'm like, well, the FX6, like, you have to change your light settings. It's way more fickle with light. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a run and gun camera. Like it's like I shot the Florida Classic with it. And like if you're going into something looking to shoot like a really dope reel, if you're by yourself, yeah, if you're looking to shoot a dope reel and you're not looking to tell the whole story of the game, that's great. But like the file size is huge. The light is real fickle. I shot something else with it, and man, I spent most of the time trying to get my light back right because you're at a football game. It comes across a cloud. You have to totally change your light, and there's not like on the FX3, it's all right here in these buttons, right? So the sun comes out in the cloud, I can fix my joint right here. Done. On the FX6, the menu's over here. I gotta tap the button, come back, the little scroll bar is up here, and I gotta double tap. You know what I mean? And it's just like it's not the tool for the job. Now, if I'm doing a sit down interview with somebody, like
Easy.
I'm shooting a sit down on brick by brick, oh, I'm bringing the six. You know what I mean? Like I'm bringing it in, I'm setting my light, I'm lighting right. I'm gonna use the 3 as my, my little side camera, and we're in business. But like if you look at it as, oh, the FX6 has better specs and it's more expensive, use that. Like that's what I don't cosign. Like the way I shoot, like the FX3 is perfect. I can take photos. You know what I mean? I switch to photos, like bip, roll, tap, bop, 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 tap, roll back, shooting video that fast. You know what I mean? Like that quick. So that's my thing. But yeah, the FX3 is it's my favorite camera ever. I'll probably be shooting with something like that forever. It's perfect in my opinion for what I'm doing. For running and gunning, it's perfect.
For sure. Nah, it's that. Did you shot the brick by brick, the actual footage with the three?
All everything on Brick by Brick is shot with the FX3,
Yeah.
except for the sit down interviews and the like
With coach.
devotion segments.
Yeah.
Anything that's like in a room. Well, it's both because I did some two cam, like like anything you see where somebody's talking and then like I cut to the players, and they nodding their head or whatever. The coach is the FX6 and the players are the FX3 because I got one camera like this and then I'm using the other one to shoot like the other side. So
Nah, for sure, for sure.
yeah.
You just made me think. I was watching. I'm like, man, he got to have another shooter in there with him. But you got two cameras set up. That's dope. I like that.
Sometimes, yeah, for the
Sometimes,
sit down stuff, I have two cameras. But nah, I can't, man. I can't wait to get back to making productions with other people. I feel like I've been the Lone Ranger out here for so many years. But
word.
that's the other, once we get into that, once we, link Josh and some of these other people, that's why it's like the sky is really the limit. Like in my mind, like I be up at night being like, man, like I could put together an ESPN 30 for 30 on HBCUs that would go crazy using only HBCU creators for it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the type of stuff that excites me. Like, I don't even got to do nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I could just you know what I mean? But like, it's possible. And that's why it frustrates me sometimes when I see people come into the HBCU space and they don't make an attempt to even like use those people. because
Right.
it's like they're there. You know what I mean? Like you don't gotta call me. Like you get better people for the gig, but like call somebody. You know what I mean? Like call one of these people who are already doing it instead of just like to me that's when it feels like usury. I ain't gonna mention specific names, but I'll say this. When somebody comes in and they're like, "Hey, I'm doing this big thing. This is for HBCUs in the community, and look at how we're giving back." Go ask them or look at who's doing the work. Because if they're not hiring people within the space to actually do the work,
Right.
then what they're doing, they're not doing it with intent. They're saying, "Hey, this is a business idea that we think can make some money." But hey, it's America. Like
Capitalist.
that's part of the game too. Like I can't knock somebody for having a business idea that involves HBCUs that they can execute one way and pull off. But at the same time, just don't come in here with that. We're doing it for the culture stuff when you're not. You know what I mean? Like just say we doing it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we doing this thing and we gonna do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to add in all that extra stuff when you have zero intention of doing it. When you haven't even reached out to anybody. You know what I mean? Like I can't tell you how many people have how many big businesses and events including all sports networks you can think of, most that have straight stolen footage from us. And when we called them out on it, they were pretty much just like, "Oh well,
What y'all call fair
let's
use?
let's do something. Well, we'll get you something down the line." You know what I mean? It's like,
Uh,
nah, like you did an HBCU project, like you knew it was HBCU. Instead of reaching out to somebody in HBCU, you said, "Oh, just find me something. Oh, that
right.
looks cool. Give me that." You know what I mean? Like that ain't it. And we get a lot of that from the bigger, more mainstream, you
Medias.
know, HBCU events, HBCU targeted events, I will call. You know what I mean? Not your celebration bowls, none of that, but some of this ancillary stuff that popped up. That's a whole different. What Shay Shay does the nightcap podcast. I'll come back on the nightcap.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I'll
Right.
come back on the nightcap and give you some real about that because boy, I done got into it with some folk over that.
Nah, for sure. We can definitely say
But
that.
yeah,
uh,
look, I got to stop myself because I want to go in, but I'm not going to do it.
yeah, we can't make this a Monique right now. We can't make or a cat.
Exactly. Look, we have Steve Vitale on. Ask him. I'm the one who, if it ever happens from game day, I'll put it this way: if it ever happens from game day, I'm probably gonna be the mouthpiece to lay the things out.
Yeah.
Steve would be, and Steve's probably the best one because
Yeah,
he's the
Steve.
most closely tied to it. But he got relationships to respect. Like
Yeah, he's the journalist.
you know, he's got to keep a Me, I'm like, I'll burn it down. I'll go make one dog see two right after. It'll be just fine. It'll be just fine. So when it goes down, it'll be me. But nah, it's generally all love. Like I said, especially everybody in our community. Like 99.99% of HBCU actual podcast people, brands, platforms, people who are doing it. Like we're super cool with, and it's all love and like it's all about making each other better and like really taking HBCUs to the next level. To what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I want a HBCU Fab Five of 5-star players who come to a HBCU and they already got a show sold to Netflix before the ball even tips. You
Man.
know, you know what I mean? Like that's the type of stuff I want, and that takes everybody. There's nobody's gonna be able to do that by themselves. So
Right.
especially when it comes to the eighth, it's like The Wire. Like I'm like Avon when he came out from Marlowe. Like look, if you're on the West Side, it's all love, but them,
Nah.
nah, It don't matter what you said to me, did to me. Look, when it's about us, it's about us, and everybody who is about us is all love forever. You
Exactly.
know.
Last question, brother. But stick around when I segue. I'm gonna ask you like two more questions. Now I'm gonna let you go. I
Nah, you
promise.
good.
Some advice that you can give to videographers or entrepreneurs. I know you already dropped a lot of gems on us, but just advice for videographers and entrepreneurs on how to just last, number one, in a growing industry and remain true to themselves?
Man, I would say number one, like kind of a combination of stuff I said. Like find what you really like to do within the game
Hmm.
and do it with whatever consistency you can do it with. Consistency is huge. Like, you're never gonna, well, I ain't gonna say never, but it's gonna be hard to make like one fire video and then it's and then the like clouds open up and everything is good. It's gonna take you doing it and doing it and doing it over and over before you even start to see the
Traction.
like fruits of it. So like be consistent, like be have intent, like, hey, I want to do this thing, be consistent with it. And then like I said, like just don't get too caught up in your own thing. Or, if that's really what you want to do, fine. But if you're looking to grow and you know, like don't be afraid to adapt. Don't be afraid to say, all right, let me take a step back from what I am doing and see how can I get better. You know what I mean? Because it's hard. Like you wouldn't spend the time it takes to make some of this stuff if you didn't love it. And so it's hard for you as a creator to like make something and love it and then watch it and be like, okay, how does this suck? Right? Because that's what you have to do in a way. You have to be like, no, how is this trash? And like I know a lot of people, like when I talk candidly, they're like, dog, do you even like your own work? You know what I
Right.
mean? They're like, because all I'm gonna say is I should have done that. That doesn't look good. I tell people all the time, like editor me hates the cameraman me. I be cussing myself out when I'm editing. I'm like, bro, why you ain't shoot that? Stick on the shot. You looking past, you know what I mean? Like,
Facts.
like
I've been doing the same
and
thing.
it's a balance because like that's certain you need to be that critical. Because if you're not, like you're probably not gonna be making anything that's like good, but it's also tough. So like be critical without beating yourself up too much. Be consistent, and then have fun. Adapt, and then, like I say, if it gets to really feeling like work, stop because it ain't going unless it is work. Unless the check is there. You know
Yes,
what I mean?
sir.
Like if the bag is there and it feels like work, that's called work, and that's what my man Chennis Berry said. The mailman got to go to work. The new coach of South Carolina State. So you got to go to work. But if you're
Hmm.
building and you're still in the like growing phase, like, and it's feeling like work, like switch that up. You know what I mean? Like make the content that, you know,
The more
isn't gonna feel
relaxed.
like a chore. It's not gonna feel like a chore. And to me, like it's crazy because like a 90-second video from Instagram for me is more of a chore than a 15-minute docu project. Because I'm gonna be more into it. Like I don't even, all I listen to is like Hit Boy and Larry June. Like I be listening to some of these songs. I'm like, where do they be finding these songs? You know what I mean? Like I'm just not tapped in on that level. You know what I mean? So like, do what fits you. You know what I mean? Like, so that's that for me is I'm definitely I have a harder time with the IG than I do the longer stuff, just because it feels like a chore. Like it's got to be vertical. I can't stand doing vertical. It's little stuff like that. But that's why I got youngest. That's why I got Josh. You know what I mean? That's why you build a network of people who are coming behind you. You know, to pick up your slack.
Most definitely, brother. I appreciate you coming on, tuning in, dropping these dimes, these gems of knowledge, man. Just also telling your story, which is, what I'm saying, the main thing, man. So, like I said, brother, don't go nowhere. I'm gonna take you off, and I'm gonna talk to the people, and I'm gonna chop it up with you again, brother. But thank you,
Bet. Appreciate you, man. Hey, thank you.
most definitely. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Man, that was a legendary exclusive interview, man, with the great Wali Pitt, man. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, man, you shoot for the stars. And, you know what I'm saying? You fall around the clouds, but if you shoot even higher, shoot past the stars, you know what I'm saying? You might fall in the sun because it get hot. But ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all for tuning in, tapping with me on this Saturday evening. Y'all be blessed. Until next time, continue to be great.